What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Come talk some Sixers with us, and maybe the greatest weekend of football that I've witnessed. Let's go. Let's go. This ain't the fuck like he wants this game, he stinks.
Oh shit!
It's gone.
Hi, folks. Bob Mannery here. You're listening to A2D Radio, real sports talk radio for the fans, by the fans, no agenda. These guys are the best in the business. Hashtag it. No notes.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Monday Morning Quarterback, only on A2D Radio. Every Monday, we are brought to you by FanUp, and FanUp is the best way to enjoy fantasy sports, daily NFL contests, NBA contests, and more. Even for the ladies in your life, little bachelor, bachelorette, you can do contests on that as well. So many things for not only the everyday fantasy person, but the people just jumping into fantasy. You can win great prizes. Sign up today. Use promo code A2D for 5,000 bonus points. That's a $50 value, and you can find FanUp right in the Apple Store. Go download it and make sure you're using promo code A2D. That's Ryan Brodo. I'm Tom Arnone. The family out there, we got a lot to go over. Going to steer clear of Eagles today, going a little bit different direction. So, listen, what I'll tell you is I never tell you to not comment in Eagle stuff, but what I'll tell you today is don't. It's just don't. Sports Towns, they can talk Eagles later on with you. I'm done talking Eagles. I'm shutting her down for a month and a half. Talk to me after the Super Bowl. Talk to me when free agency begins, or talk to me when something groundbreaking happens. Until that point, she is shut down for the season, baby, because we have plenty of other things to talk about. We'll talk about the future of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and how both guys went about their pressers differently, right? And it just shows you. It just shows you how one guy's a nonstop winner and the other guy is worried about everything else in my eyes but winning. We'll talk about that later on the show. NFL playoff reactions, like I said, coming in, arguably maybe the best weekend of football outside of your own team winning that I've been a part of in a long, long time. What tremendous games there were. 3 out of 4 away teams win football games. It's amazing. It really is, and it's finished off by maybe the Super Bowl last night. Bills and Chiefs, both teams deserve to advance. We'll talk a little bit about the overtime rules. I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, and I'll say what I said to my father. Stop a team with 13 seconds left, and the conversation doesn't happen. Okay? Simple as that. Like, the rules are the rules. Make a stop. Get off the field. Hold them to 3. Do something, okay, which you did nothing of on the last 2 possessions to stop the bleeding. Okay, do something. Like, I would, as a fan, you would love to see the Bills get another possession. Let it go on for 2 days. It'll never end, right? I get it. But the rules are the rules. You have 13 seconds left on the clock on their own 25, and you let them go down and get a field goal in field goal range. Okay, right there, you should fire everybody on your staff that's a defensive coach, including your head coach, Sean McDermott, and then go on from there. So I don't want to hear about the rules unless you're a Buffalo Bills fan and you're that upset about the loss. Any casual fan of the sport should be like, dude, you have 13 seconds left on the clock. We're really going to talk about overtime? That's what we're going to talk about today? We will talk about it later on the show. Latest with Joel Embiid in the NBA MVP conversation, because the guy's been flat out lights out. I think 12 straight road games of 30 plus. It's absurd. Or at least 10 plus road games of 30 plus. Doesn't matter. Okay. A lot of sample size of his dominance on the road and our dominance as a basketball team on the road as well. Doc Rivers will circle back to his presser the other night, comparing himself to the great Greg Popovich. Not quite sure what that means, but we'll talk about it. And then we'll talk about them winning another game on the road last night, but can't get out of their own way at home, being 10-10. We'll give our Sixers midseason expectations. We'll tie into our poll question, which is brought to you by Manscaped, and you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. From Tyler, I'll get into it. I saw your comment when I looked down at YouTube. Give me a minute, Tyler. We'll get into it. We'll get into all that. From the weed whacker, the lawnmower, the ball deodorant, shampoo, regular deodorant, foot spray. What doesn't Manscaped have for you? Go check them out and get 20% off and free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. Taking you in a different direction tonight. Our poll question, the Sixers will finish as a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, hit the download, hit the review, hit whatever you want, and make sure you're commenting in tonight. Whatever you need to get off your chest, drop it in the comments, and we'll get to it unless it's about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts not being good enough. Besides that, bring it all on the table tonight.
What about the Flyers?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the Flyers or be like Jimmy, because there's no flight zone tonight, he's got to take his old lady for her birthday to a Flyers game. I said, Jimmy, who goes to the Flyers game? Like, who's really paying money for Flyers tickets? Great guy, taking care of his lady, like you should do too, and get 20% off and free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. But Jimmy taking care of his lady, heading down to the Flyers tonight, said no one ever but Jimmy. So no flight zone. Check him tomorrow night. Check him out tomorrow night before Hockey Happy Hour. So a little programming alert. And to our poll, listen, I know people are like, oh, Tom, you're always agreeing to be in the top 4 seed. Like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to agree again. And I'm going to really agree because look at the standings. Look at the standings and say to yourself, who has the best basketball player on their team when you look through the standings? We're not talking about being a 1 or 2 seed here, all right, which you're only 2.5 games out of, by the way. Out of the 1 seed, you're 2.5 games out of, and you're in the 6 currently, okay? We're not talking about 1 or 2 seeds. We're talking about being a top 4 seed by the end of this season, right? As long as Joel Embiid's healthy, I'm going to absolutely agree with this poll. I know there's a cloud over this team. I understand the missing piece. I get all that. We're not talking about cutting nets down. We're not talking about, winning 2 playoff series. We're strictly talking about finishing this season as a top 4 seed, which from last year shows you means nothing because we were a 1 seed and couldn't bring it home. So I'm going to agree because who out there? I mean, you can say Brooklyn. That's fine. They're without Kevin Durant for a good amount of time, substantial amount of time. When you're talking 4 to 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is a lot of basketball. Right, a lot of basketball happens in a month. So they've slid down a little bit. You're only 2 games behind them. Chicago's not going to continue this pace, obviously, with all the injuries. It's hard to, nor should you expect them to. Now, do I still think they finish as a top 5, 6 seed? Sure, I got to see when all their guys come back. Now, Lonzo's out, right? They got Caruso's out. Obviously, Levine's been out. So it's DeRozan and the Kobe White show. So I mean, let's look at them as saying, hey, they could drop a little bit, not knocking what they've done this year because they've been tremendous. Milwaukee's been hot and cold. They haven't been the definition of consistency after winning an NBA championship, even though they're 30-19. And Cleveland. So I mean, they're the 5 teams, and obviously Miami's the 1 seed. I'll defer to them as holding on to a top 4 seed. Outside of that, you assume, okay, Brooklyn will probably be a top 4 seed. And then you look at yourself and you say, okay, Milwaukee, right, should be. Right, they're the 3 that probably should be top 3 seeds. The rest of them, Cleveland's been tremendous here. Don't get me wrong, from their standards, right? They've been tremendous, the Cleveland Cavaliers. But we really don't think we're better than them. We have the best basketball player in this conference, and the only guy you can tell me is better than him is out, and that's Kevin Durant. That's it. So if he's not the best, we got the 2nd best player in the Eastern Conference on our basketball team. All right, we do. We do. He's been lights out. Can he continue this pace? I have no reason to think Joel Embiid can't continue the mission he's been on. And as long as he can continue the mission he's been on, I think this team finishes as a top 4 seed. Do they got to play better at home? Absolutely. I believe their next 4 or 5 games are at home and a stretch where they should go a 4-1 at minimum. All right. I mean, I just think by the teams they're playing, I mean, they'll probably lay a dud, et cetera. You know how that goes, but they can really get better at home this week. I think or over the next 2 weeks, they have really one team that I think is a good basketball team coming in, and it might be Phoenix, and I could be wrong, but it might be Phoenix. So they should be a 4-1 stretch here. When we talk about the Pelicans, I think Washington comes in. So you got teams you're better than coming into your building to help you make up for the 10-10 at home. So if we're looking at teams that finish in the top 4, you're going to look for teams that most likely are playing extremely well at home and maybe playing 500 on the road. We're different. We're actually playing great on the road, which you never thought you'd hear this, and not playing good at home. So as long as they can take care of these home woes, which I think they can, right? After they get away from the fans booing and all the rest, it doesn't matter. I think once they can do that, they can jump themselves into a top 4 seed. I have no reason to not think that. As much as this roster has a glaring hole on it, I get it. I have no reason to not think that this basketball team can't finish the top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. I still think the best player in basketball, top 3, wherever you want to put them, right? Okay, each day could be different for somebody, but arguably at worst, top 5, right? Those guys usually finish top 4 in their conferences. They just usually do, even with holes around them, right? And I'm not saying it's a one-player league, but it is a star-driven league. Let's keep that in mind. And we have, depending on the day, we have arguably the best star walking around right now, playing right now. Nobody's playing at his level. Nobody in the country ever dropped 50 points in 27 minutes. Nobody fucking does it. It's not college. It's not high school. It's not AAU. Nobody does it. So being that we have the best player in basketball right now, in my opinion, we're going to finish top 4 seed. Family out there, let us know where you side with it, and we'll obviously get into more Sixers talk outside of this. I see a lot of people chiming in already about Daryl Morey, and I have a couple of things to say about that after Ryan goes.
You knew where I was going with this. Everybody at home, if you've heard me talk about the Sixers the last handful of weeks to months, it's like other than Joel Embiid, they really can't do anything right, in my opinion. And listen, I'll preface this by saying, am I probably being a little too emotional with this poll question? Of course. But I promised everybody that I would be if certain things didn't happen. I completely agree, Tom, that Embiid's not only the best player in the Eastern Conference, healthy, that is, but he's probably the best player in basketball right now. I would find a hard argument to say that there's anybody else right now, and I'm not saying that as a Sixers fan. I'm saying that as an NBA fan. I just look at it, right, and this is not trade talk, right? I look at the 5 teams that are ahead of us: Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, Miami, Brooklyn. I agree with you that the Cavaliers, while they've had a really exciting, I would say, overachieving season so far, wouldn't shock me if they would drop off a little bit, truthfully, especially because Rubio, in the past would be like, oh, they lost Ricky Rubio, doesn't mean anything. But he was really strong for them. He was really the lifeblood of them, along with obviously Garland and, the rookie and Kevin Love actually playing basketball. So they have a lot of good pieces there, but I would expect of those 5 teams ahead of us to fall off. I would expect them probably to. And I hear you with Chicago. I truly do.
They already have. So.
Oh, yeah, they're 3-7 their last 10. So they've already started a dip.
Yeah, make sure you keep hearing me. They already have. Hard. It's hard. They don't have that guy. It's like they don't have Joel Embiid sitting there when everybody else goes out. We're like, oh, I can make up for it and drop 38 a night. They don't have that guy. DeRozan, really good basketball player. Really not that guy that go carry them. Right? So,
Tom, you know what that means? They're missing Levine a little bit. You know what I mean?
They're missing their whole fucking team. I mean, they're missing Levine. They're missing Lonzo. Nobody's telling you Chicago wasn't good before it. Where DeMar DeRozan goes, they're usually a top 4 seed until the playoffs, and then they're usually like the Sixers, and they're out early.
I look at the Heat, who obviously, to your point, do they scream 1 seed to me at the end of the year? No, but I think it would be disrespectful if any of us came in here and be like, oh, well, they're going to drop from 1 to 6 or 1 to 5. So they're going to be in there. Brooklyn, as much as it's going to hurt not having Durant for another, 3-4 weeks, I still think they're a really good basketball team. And again, it would take a lot for them to drop off. And Milwaukee, they've been kind of in the same boat as the Sixers to where they've been battling the COVID stuff, health, to where they've only had their fully structured team for like 20% of the time. So really, it's like I find the Sixers and Milwaukee kind of in that same bubble to where we really haven't seen a lot of their full strength. To the Sixers' point of view, you could argue we've never seen them at full strength because of 25 not here. But I look at this, right? And this is what I think the biggest waving factor is as far as why I have them finishing as a 5th seed and not in the top 4. The Miami Heat, the Brooklyn Nets, the Chicago Bulls, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Just of those 4, and I'm not even counting the Hornets, who I think could easily make their way into the top 4 because they're going to add some people, and they've been probably the most banged up team throughout all of the reasons so far in the Eastern Conference, and they're playing really well. And they're at 7. All those teams, I think, are going to make drastic improvements in the next month. I can't say that about us. Right.
But you can't do that, though. I mean, you can't move the goalpost on it and say you're assuming that teams are going to. Well, you got to hear me on this. You just said you're assuming other teams get better, but not us. So now you're living way too emotionally attached to it and not saying, well, like that's not fair to say. So Charlotte's just going to make a blockbuster and they're going to get better, or Chicago's going to make a deal and they're going to get better. Like, no, if you want to talk about guys coming back, that's a different conversation. But you can't move a goalpost on this poll and say, well, they're going to go out and make the right deals at the deadline. They're going to get better. That's why they're going to be ahead of us. No, put on their roster. Be fair.
Well, I disagree because we're projecting. I mean, we're projecting the NBA trade deadline.
You're projecting they make deals and we don't. That's what you just did.
No,
because you were the guy that came on when we hired Daryl Morey, and you couldn't blush enough that we got and a lot of guys, myself included, but you really couldn't blush enough about that. He's going to put all the pieces together to have the greatest basketball team of all time, essentially, because nobody's smarter than Daryl Morey. But now you're going to say a year later that, you know what? He's not going to make any moves to make us better, but all these other teams that are going to jump us or ahead of us are going to get better move-wise. It's not fair. It's not fair.
They can make moves. We can't. Because you have $45 million just sitting there and an untradeable contract to Tobias Harris.
Okay, and there's not any other types of deals that can make you better.
No, there's some small ones, but I think you're going to have a lot more splashy moves with those other teams.
Why are they? Now the NBA trade deadline is about all these splash moves happening since when? Like there's buyouts and stuff like that, but how many splash moves happen yearly that really move the needle in season, that move the needle in season, that aren't buyouts?
I mean, I can look. I mean, it doesn't have the top of my head.
Again, in season splashes don't necessarily always happen. Like our biggest splash was like the Tobias and the Jimmy. Like it really doesn't usually take place like that. Like you might have a few that happen, but what I'm saying to you is you're assuming that they're going to get better and make splash moves, but we won't do anything to get better. Well, what's Charlotte have that's going to get them a splash player back without giving up young pieces that are good on their basketball team already? Chicago, what's Chicago trading and why? Like, you know what I mean? If we're looking at Chicago, for example, like why? Why are they like outside of Kobe White? Like, what are they trading? And what's Kobe White getting you back? Like, I'm trying to be as fair as possible here. We're not talking about top 2. We're talking about top 4, but we can't assume that every other team's going to make moves and we're just not going to do anything. When we hired Daryl Morey, we loved it and assumed that he was going to put our roster, all of us, in the best position to be successful.
Oh, yeah. No, again, I'm not assuming, I'm not like stamping it that like, oh, it's a guarantee that all these 4 teams, 5 teams, whatever are going to do it. It's that the biggest difference between this year and last year is that we could make those moves. We can't now. That's the biggest issue. We can't. We have $70 million that can't be traded. And I see Damian saying, oh, Al Horford was untradeable. That was on draft day in the offseason. And we were getting back something that the Lakers didn't want or OKC didn't want.
Well, he's not tradable. He's not tradable.
Who? Al Horford?
No. The guy you're talking about is not tradable.
No, I'm talking about Tobias. Ben, I don't think is getting traded.
But why would you like? I hear you, but why would like? What do you think you're getting back for Tobias Harris? Just like these other names that you're going to give me on these other teams, what do they think they're getting back that moves the needle for them to be so much better? That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get you to answer. What? Because you're talking about Charlotte's going to make a move that's going to jump them, or Chicago. Like, that was your caveat here, and I'm going to harp on it, was that they're going to get better because of moves, but we're not. So what are they doing that's going to move their needle to get a star player in the building over there? It's the same. They get the same type of players Tobias Harris is. So
the Hornets, for example, they've been trying to, and I think they're going to get a guy like Miles Turner. So I think a Miles Turner to them is drastic as far as the Eastern Conference standings, because that's something that they've needed for a couple of years. And
we're doing a lot of assuming that they're making a move.
Yeah, it's projection. I hear you.
I get it, and I'm projecting things that as they are right now, like who's on whose team, blah blah blah. And I'm looking at it differently than you. I'm not going to project out and get the trade machine out right now. Like, there's going to be buyouts. There's going to be those types of things that can make everybody better. Everybody's going to be looking to get better, but we can't say that the Charlotte Hornets and Michael Jordan's finally going to get something right, but we're not. That's unfair. And the rush, and the other thing is the rush to trade Tobias Harris, I think, is a little misguided too, as much as he hasn't lived up to his billing. Because what do we think we're getting back?
No, it's not a rush to trade Tobias Harris at all. It's that of all of these guys, all right, of all the names, right? Because everybody wants to value the Shams report. Like, oh, okay, we have to
Shams or any of these reports, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The Shams thing I think was ridiculous this morning. But it's like, oh, okay, we have to trust that Matisse Thybulle is now untouchable. Obviously, I'm not touching Maxey. Danny Green, does he play anymore? Like, so you have all of these guys. It's that, okay, if the two guys that have been rumored the most as far as trade discussions, one of them nobody wants. The other one, he doesn't play basketball anymore. Two, the Sixers are just going to stay and they're going to be patient as ever. What are we then moving to then get something that's then a quote unquote big needle mover? What's the splash? You know what I'm saying? If we're not willing to move anybody.
But again, I'm not there in this conversation. I'm going off of the poll. It would be fitting that Ryan Brotto would go to the trade machine and project way more than needs to be projected right now. Look at it the way it is. No, none of them teams. And somebody just said Miles Turner has an awful foot injury. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
but
he'll be out for a couple weeks.
But the fact of the matter is, Miles Turner's makes you better. But they're also going to have to give up something for Miles Turner. So how much better? Miles Turner isn't a star. Let's be fair here. Miles Turner is a very good basketball player, very good rim protector. I get the things Miles Turner brings to the table, but not a star. Like, so in reality, if we trade Tobias Harris, we're going to get something back that's reasonable to Tobias Harris. Maybe makes you better, maybe doesn't. And the same goes for all these teams. They might trade somebody and get something back that makes them better, but that's like a really hard projection to do that when we're diving into this. I could project then, okay, hold my beer on the 4th seed. We're going to trade Ben Simmons, and we're going to get back exactly what we want to make us better. It's like, and I'm not taking a shot at you. I'm just debating for a good time because we're used to debating Eagles, so I'm going to debate something else. Wait. I can't move the goalposts like that, because if Charlotte can make a deal and Chicago can make a deal and they can get better, then I'm going to then say back to you then, well, guess what? We're going to make one and get better.
Oh, look, it's Ben Simmons.
It's Ben.
There's Ben.
But you don't understand what I'm saying to you? Then I would say then to us, well, then we're going to make a move that's going to make us better then. Just to play devil's advocate with you.
I'll move the goalpost back then, and I'll say this. I don't trust the organization and really his teammates to put Joel Embiid in a good enough position to put us in a good enough position at the end of the year.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you again.
Okay.
What is Michael Jordan as an executive? Not I love MJ. That's my guy, right? But as the head of the whole shebang, besides LaMelo falling in his goddamn lap, what has Michael Jordan done to prove any of that to come true? Any of it. And I love Mike, but he's done nothing. They've been the same team. This is the first year they're actually like semi-relevant per se. Right, Gordon Hayward. Like, you got Gordon Hayward.
Why do you bring up Jordan after that though? I didn't. Why do you bring up that?
Why do I bring up what?
Why do you bring up the Hornets after I said that I don't trust the organization to help Embiid?
Well, I'm saying why would you trust that the Charlotte Hornets are going to make a move that's going to make them so much better than us? Or better enough.
No, I brought in the Hornets. Like, that's just like the extra. The Hornets don't need to do anything, or they don't need to move for me to be correct. Because the Hornets are 7th. I think we're going to stay exactly where we are.
Okay, fine. But you brought up the Hornets. I didn't bring up the Hornets.
No, because I'm saying that's a team I think can jump. I agree.
Okay, but you're saying they don't. Are they jumping or not jumping? Because I'm trying to find out.
They
have it in the top 4.
No, they can jump, but they don't need to jump for the Sixers to be outside of the top 4 seed. I'm talking about all these guys, all these teams that are kind of hanging around, and the Hornets are 7th. So they're a team that if I think, what team is going to make a bigger jump or can make a bigger jump, I would say the Hornets have a better chance to go out and get somebody to make that bigger jump. That's the only reason why I brought up the Hornets.
And I'm not going to hold my breath on the Charlotte Hornets. So let's go to the team that you have ahead of them so we can get into it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're talking about what other team in there in M4 I'm looking at for you. Forget Miami. Okay, I think they're fine regardless, right? Forget Milwaukee. Okay, then who? Chicago? Like the only thing they're going to do is get players back. Okay, they're not going to go out and upgrade, right? Like I don't see where that deal comes into play for them. I just don't. Maybe they do, but then it'll be trading one of those big 3 guys. Or they're just getting the same thing in return. Or big 4, sorry. They have 4 really good basketball players. So they're not trading Vucevic, right? They're not trading LaMelo. They just signed him. They're not trading Levine. And they sure as hell aren't trading DeMar DeRozan. So the only other thing they're trading is stuff on their slop heap, which a guy I like in Kobe White, but he's not getting you back something that's going to make you that much better. So Lee Chicago saying, hey, they're going to get replacements back. And that's why I had them ahead of the Sixers, because when these guys come back, they're going to go on a little run. And maybe they are. But Jeremy Grant, but for what though? For what, John?
Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams is somebody that they've shopped.
Okay, and the deal hasn't happened yet. So listen, everybody knock on my fucking front door when Jeremy Grant is a Chicago Bull, and then fine. But Jeremy Grant, another guy that's not going to move the needle enough for me to say the Bulls are that good now because they got Jeremy Grant. I'm just trying to be fair about it. Not saying they're not better than the Sixers. I'm not saying that. Right? Because I think when they're constructed, if they have Jeremy Grant, sure, they're better. But I'm looking, if we're projecting, they got guys out for at least a month or 2. That's a lot of basketball. You can lose. Listen, you can drop way too far down, and maybe you're just stuck at a 5-6 seed because of all the losses, but come playoff time, nobody wants to see you, right? That could be the Chicago Bulls. Not saying I'm right. I don't know how long Levine's out for. I don't have all them answers. I know Caruso's out for a while.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
How long?
6 weeks.
Levine? That's a fucking...
No. I'm sorry. Caruso's 6 weeks. Levine's going to be out for a minute, though.
Levine's going to be out for a minute. They'll be okay if they can get LaMelo back. How long's LaMelo out for?
Lonzo?
Lonzo, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, because I was horning it up a second ago. I was talking about the Hornets. I'll pull up. I'll see when Lonzo's back. I don't think it's anything major, to be honest.
So to be able to have a poll like this, we got to be able to debate it, family, right? We got to be able to debate both sides of it. Just like it's easy as me saying the Sixers could be a top 4. Listen, they haven't done enough to prove that either. But either have these other teams, because a lot of these other teams have fluctuated throughout the year, just like we have. But being 11, I'm 11-3 in my last 14 games. 11-3 in my last 14 since Christmas. Since Christmas. It's hard for me to not, and I get it who we played, but we've also played some good teams that we won too. Let's not take that away, right? We've had some bad losses. The Clippers lost the other night. The Washington loss I wasn't a fan of, but it was Martin Luther King Day, 2 p.m. game. Like I can almost give that one away, right? Mm-hmm. And then there was another loss at home in there. But you guys understand my point. 11-3 in the last 14. That's nothing to put your nose up to. So if we're projecting, I'm projecting the same way you're going to project, right? I'm going to project Joel Embiid to be healthy and to continue to put up the numbers he's putting up. Because if he does, I don't really care what the other guys are doing per se. During the regular season, we can be good enough to be that 4th. Now, I also agree with you, right? Hey, maybe they stay right at the 5 or 6. Like maybe that's where they are and where they belong. Maybe, but it's hard for me off the body of work that we've seen over the last 14 games. And there's been there's a couple bad losses in there. To not think that they can't continue this. And then you're talking about projecting to get better. Dude, a buyout, 2 buyouts maybe, right? Maybe move the needle for us a little bit more where we think we have some help around.
You're not wrong at all with the buyouts. We do this every year. I'm at the point now where and this is me, you're not wrong for bringing it up. I'm done with the buyout thing because every year I assume, there's going to be somebody that wants to come here, and then 6 people go to Milwaukee, the other 2 go to the LA, and then the other 2 go to Milwaukee.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not even going to that's why I didn't even project trades in this, right? Because I don't want to do that. It's too much unknown, right? Even for the Sixers. So it'd be really wrong for me to come on here and say, hey, Ben's getting traded. We're getting this stuff back. This is why we're a top 4 seed. I can't do that. I got to look at everything on the surface for every basketball team and say, as of right this minute, and I'm not changing the goalpost on the poll for you. I'm changing the goalpost on the poll for me, right? As of this minute, I look at them as a top 4 seed in the East. And that's not me being a homer. That's their level of play over their last 14 since Christmas, when you know how much stock I put into that. They're still missing guys. They're winning games with no Matisse. They're winning games with Danny Green just out there for cardio, right? I mean, they're winning games. They're winning games despite, like, some Charlie Brown is playing. Charlie Brown is getting minutes. And because Joel Embiid's that great right now, right? Because he's that great, my projection is his greatness continues, and that's why. That's my only projection on it.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I'm shocked you didn't lead with that in a way.
What?
As far as no. Like, as far as, like, one of the biggest reasons to counteract with what I'm saying, to where I'm saying, like, oh, well, all these teams are going to get players. Well, you can argue, while some of our players are just guys, we're going to get the reinforcements back eventually too. Now, Shake Milton, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I don't know when the hell he could be back. I wouldn't be surprised, just because of how Doc's been talking about him, if we don't see him for the rest of the year, just because of how, I mean, that screams like a Jalen Mills injury to me. I know it's a different injury, but just how quiet they've been with that. Apparently it's a back and everything. And Doc was saying the other day that Doc Rivers could outrun Shake Milton. So I don't know if we should ever expect him back this season or anytime soon.
Yeah. I didn't know his whole situation.
But to your point, like, we're gonna get Matisse back, and we know how big that is just for our perimeter defenses. Perimeter defense alone, which is disastrous, by the way. But I don't need to remind you of that. You can just watch the TV for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Danny Green, as much as I want to be like, oh, well, we'll get him back, I feel like we haven't had him all year. You know what I mean? Like,
even when he's there, we don't have him. Yeah, you're right.
I want to say, hey, he'll figure it out. But I look at him the way I looked at Josh Richardson a couple years ago, but worse. Like, he's back for 5 seconds, he sucks, and then he gets injured again.
Just need a pulse out of him.
I just need him to do his job and get off of his podcast. That's all I need.
Like the Bill Belichick. Like, we need the Bill Belichick rant. Like, just do your job. Yeah. Right? It's like, dude, just hit a couple threes, play defense, just act like you're out there. Listen, I see a lot of people talking about the Halliburton and the other things. We'll get into that. We'll get into those things in a minute. But you're right. I mean, they are going to get pieces back, and other teams are going to get pieces back as well. So it's not just us, and it's not just the buyout market. Like, they could make a trade, right? They could make a small level trade and get Eric Gordon in here, which would help us get better, right? So there's ways that, like, listen, I am down and out on Daryl Morey a little bit, but I'm going to get into with you guys in a few minutes here on why I'm not as out as maybe the rest of the public is. Okay, because I understand it. Like, the more I've tried to, like, put myself into the situation, because, right, we've talked about it on A2D numerous times. We're wasting Joel Embiid's prime.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you made that Kings trade that we talked about the other night, you not only wasted Joel Embiid's prime right now, you wasted Joel Embiid's prime next year, possibly, the year after that, possibly. So we're looking at it in a vacuum as of right this minute. As a guy, as a president of basketball operations, the knee-jerk trade can make you waste his prime a lot longer, too. The knee-jerk. There's right moves out there, okay? Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons for Halliburton, Hield, and Barnes is never a good enough move. It's never could. Now, you're giving arguably one of your best players, 2 of your 3 best players, in return for a team not even their best. That's playing. That's proven to be good. I don't care about Halliburton's ability down the road. I'm talking about you're not even getting a team's best player back. You can tell me how good Halliburton's going to be, right? And I can also probably give you 10 examples on how maybe he's not. It's an unknown. It's an unknown.
You know, it's funny, and you read my mind with there. Like, my gut reaction when hearing that trade is, oh yeah, it's bad unless Halliburton turns out to what he's supposed to be. But to your point, it's also an extreme risk.
I mean, you talk to Kings fans. I see it on Twitter, right? So I try to look some things up and try to find out where they think. Dude, I think we'll hate Buddy Hield in 5 minutes here. Okay, like I really do. Like, I think we'll be like, all right, dude, because everybody acts like he's 25. He's 28. It's not like he's going to continue to get better. Buddy Hield is who Buddy Hield is. He's okay. He can stretch a defense, but he can also shoot you out of games at times too. So again, not trying to shit on Buddy Hield. It's easy to like guys who are actually playing over a guy who's not. I understand that. But guess what? I'm also not giving in to this pussy either. And I'm sure as I'm not going to ruin my franchise, arguably, because we can say, okay, money comes off your books, Rye, on certain guys, and then you can go out and get a guy.
Yep.
Okay, that's not a guarantee either. Right? Like that's a lot of projecting. Right? I'd rather make a move and say, hey, this is who I'm getting back for the next 5 years that can make me better right now. If I'm pulling the trigger right now, that move has to get me to an Eastern Conference final. Has to. And I want Ben Simmons gone. But it has to get me there. Or I just wasted a deal.
TTP, I'm not saying I completely disagree with what Tom's saying. I more so agree with it. But let's not act like the Kings are the moral compass now. All right, let's not act like, oh, the Kings know something the other 31 teams don't. You know, like let's.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean?
Wants the Kings players except the Kings.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, listen, we look at bad basketball teams. This is why I try to from my listen, I've watched basketball longer than you just because I'm older than you. So it's not like Tom saying I know more than you. I just watched it way too long to understand and went through the process years here, right? Mm-hmm. Of understanding that guys are going to put up numbers on bad teams. Now, is that a fluke? Or is this guy legit? We talked about Zach LaVine. Is it hollow numbers or can he play? Right? And then you start adding pieces and it shows like, hey, guy can play. Guy can win games. Maybe not all of it's hollow, right? You understand? But when you're making a move like this, is Buddy Hield's numbers hollow? Right? Are they coming down 20? We don't watch every minute, right? Halliburton looks good. Looks like a good young player, right? But how much is he going to move the needle for us in the next 2 years to make us that much better? Harrison Barnes, listen, you thought you hate Tobias Harris? Have Harrison Barnes here for 10 minutes. You'll be freaking running him out of here, which will be going the following year.
I was going to say, you know what?
Run him out of here.
That's the good thing is that Harrison Barnes would literally be here for 10 minutes. That's why he's more attractive.
Talk to me about making this deal without Tobias Harris. Then you have a better conversation with me. But you sure as hell will never have a conversation that I'm giving you Ben and Tobias. Wait, so now we're just acting like Tobias Harris stinks. Like I understand he's not a max guy. That's also not his fault either. Right?
No, that's true.
He's not a max guy, but let's not act like he's atrocious. Like the guy, his numbers end up being his numbers. They just do every year. Like it or not, he gets to his numbers. I don't love Tobias' game. You know this. He needs to drive more. He needs to be more physical. He needs to want to go to the foul line more. Okay, but that's a conversation for later on in this show. What the conversation is right now is Tobias is okay. He's solid. He's not going to really kill you if you haven't that second piece, right?
You know what?
That's the missing part.
You know the perfect way to sum up Tobias, Tom, is that he is one of the only players in the NBA that has been on a contending team the last 3 years, and his numbers are hollow. Like, you know how hard it is for you to have hollow numbers on a contending team? That's Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I don't want to call his numbers like too hollow, right? Because he'll have games where, you know, when the matchup's right for him, or he has a big game. And I mean big game by like dropping 25, right? And then he'll come out the next night and give you 12, right? And I think it's more of like consistency. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So it's not even like hollow because Tobias can play. Like, he's always been able to play. Like, you look at Tobias Harris and you always have said to yourself, hey, it's a good scorer in this league. Not a great one, but always. Like, when we traded for him, like, hey, Tobias is a good player. Max guy, nobody's ever going to fucking say that, right? But a good player, yeah, Tobias is fine. But when you're paying him $50 million, he looks like shit.
The microscope gets bigger. The microscope gets closer when you pay a guy that much. TTP, I just want to say this real quick, and I don't want to, nor does Tom, I know Tom doesn't want to turn this into like a Buddy Hield thing. We have Daryl and Doc in playoffs, so like, I'll just say this. We can also project what Joel Embiid does for players too, because Seth Curry and we were on the air on draft night when we got him. People, I'm not saying you were TTP.
You better be careful. You better be careful what you say because I'm just waiting here. Like I got a button on the trigger.
That's fine.
Just waiting. But if you're going to tell me his numbers went up, no, they didn't. His field goal and 3-point percentage are the same. He's got more minutes. That's the difference. So be careful if you're going to talk about points per game with Seth Curry.
No, I'm not. I wasn't even bringing up stats. I was just bringing up he's a more true fluid player with Joel Embiid. He just is.
A true fluid player because he's getting 25, 30 minutes a night easily. He wasn't getting that in Dallas.
He could have been shooting.
He was their second unit guy.
But he could be shooting him out of games, though, and he's not.
Well, he's never been a guy that not feel the room, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Seth is basketball pedigree, per se, right? Like, so, like, he's never been a guy to not feel out the room. Like, when Seth is struggling, he almost, like, shies away from it, right? Like, he's not a guy to, like, force it, right? He doesn't, like, Seth Curry never forces shots.
No, he's not trigger happy.
You know what I mean? So, like, these guys are different in what they do. And it's not a shot at Buddy. And I'm not saying you're wrong, right? I'm not saying, like, Buddy Hield comes here and doesn't get better under Joel Embiid. I'm not going to argue that side of it. I'm just going to say Seth was a good shooter before he came here and his numbers spoke to it. Buddy has been like this.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
All
I'm saying is, and again, it wasn't necessarily that Seth
Love arguing Buddy Hield with you, by the way.
No, it's good because
I'll do it for 2 days.
No, because he's a part of the fan club. He's one of the guys. To me, what I was going to say had really very little to do with Seth Curry. It's that the stance of, and I don't disagree with it if it was a different team, if it was another, 20 other teams in the NBA, the idea that Buddy Hield is going to shoot us out of games, I don't necessarily think applies for us with this roster, because with the Sacramento Kings, he has to get up that many shots. You know what I'm saying? Because he's on a bad team that can't score enough. When you have Embiid and you put him along with a Curry and a Tobias or whatever and a Maxey, his volume goes way down. So his inconsistencies, I'm not saying that he's going to ultimately go up in an additional 5 points in the 3-point percentage. I'm not saying that at all. But his volume goes way down to where he doesn't have to be your second best player, third best scorer on the Kings like he is right now.
Maybe. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's and neither do you. Neither one of us know. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, I'm not acting like I know that he's going to come here and he doesn't get better. I don't got that crystal ball, right? I'll just go off of, like, I'm trying to stay away from, and this is my thing of 39 years of basketball, per se, to you, right? I'm trying to stay away from the bad teams. And not because I don't think there's a player there that's good enough, right? Like, I heard somebody say De'Aaron Fox, I think it was No, it was John. De'Aaron Fox is a terrible decision maker the last 5 minutes of a game.
Horrible.
Maybe. But I can also make the point with playing with Joel Embiid, maybe he's a better decision maker.
Yeah, because then he doesn't feel like he has to carry games. But
I don't know.
That's the thing that, like, the Kings.
Remember, I used to not scream for Buddy. I love De'Aaron Fox. Remember me never screaming for him this offseason? Like, saying, oh, the Kings deal's the deal I want, right? Because I'm like, we can do better than De'Aaron Fox. Like, I thought, right? I even thought we could do better than him. So, and that's their best player, arguably their best player, and they refuse to put him in the fucking deal. No, I hang up the phone on you. I slam it down 1,000 times. I am not making a deal unless you are giving me your best player. Like, even Detroit was at least giving you, outside of Cade Cunningham, their best player in Jeremy Grant. Like, I'm not a Jeremy Grant guy like that, but at least they're willing to say, hey, we'll give you our best player for it. Don't try to bend me over. Because you know that I'm in a position I want to get rid of somebody, right? Because that's where bad executives make bad decisions. If Daryl Morey made that trade, right, Sixers aren't that much better today than they were yesterday. If that trade would happen right now, we could argue that we were just as good as yesterday as we are right now. And that means maybe being a top 4 seed. Can you get to an Eastern Conference Finals? Maybe. But I'm going to ask you this, right? Mm-hmm. Does that deal move the needle enough for you to say you're better than Miami, Milwaukee, and the healthy Nets team?
The deal we discussed last Wednesday.
Was better, so, clear as day. I'm better than them.
It was Ben, Tobias,
fucking Matisse too. Like, grow up, okay?
Yeah, the Matisse thing bothers me a little bit.
But just take Matisse out of it, right? Don't even put him in. Just the other two.
Yeah. So the $70 million duo, for Hallie. You've got Hield and you got Barnes at 2 firsts. I would argue it makes us better than Miami. Sorry, Bryce. But no, 7-game series. I don't love it against the Nets if they're fully healthy. I liked us how we matched up against Milwaukee last year. I like that matchup.
But that was bad matchup.
Yes. So we
don't rebound like that no more.
Yeah, no.
That's the problem. That's not.
No, you know what it is? You know what it is? It's 3. It brings me from 5 seed in the East right now to 3 seed in the East.
Okay, right? So marginally better, right? Marginally better. And I'm not going to disagree with you on that, marginally better. But it doesn't get us to the promised land. And in all fairness to Daryl Morey, he has to make a deal that he at least feels like, yo, we can go play with the Nets tomorrow, and we're just as good as them. And we might be just as good as them right now, right? We're not. But you understand my point, though. It has to move the needle enough to feel like you can go cut Nets down. Because if it doesn't, then fuck Ben. Because I'm finding his ass not to be here. So I don't care about him. Right? Like, I don't care about him. Like, I'm not going to, and J-Love, we're going to get into this in a minute because this is where we're tying this into, is down the road, right? Not just right now. So right now, do you have to make a deal that gets you over the hump? Of course, just in this year, right? But you can't also make a deal that doesn't set you up for the year after that and the year after that, okay? Because I'm looking at as a 3 to 4 year window that I got to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to listen. We all want Ben out of here. Wait. Yes, it is, Robert. Don't even say that. It's absolutely fair. What are you talking about? Then I'll just let the guy hold out then if I can't get anything back for him. And then maybe he can decide next year where he wants to play. If he wants to play or not. Right? You know what I mean? You can't say, you also can't say that there aren't many players that can compete that we can get for Ben that would compete with KD. I'm not telling you compete one-on-one with them. I'm telling you making yourself a better basketball team. Either you're deeper than them or something, right? Or something. Not that those guys are better than KD. That's not what I'm saying, because you're not going to find that deal. But could you find a deal that puts you in the same conversation as the Nets? Yes. And Sacramento is not that deal. Unless you're getting Fox back, and I'm not even crowning Fox. I'm just saying that's instant offense. Instant. More than any other guy in that deal you're getting back. De'Aaron Fox walks in the buckets. Good, bad, or indifferent. Walks in the buckets. Remember, on a bad basketball team, too.
To be honest with you, I think there's only 3 players that are realistic to get traded. By the deadline, that would put us in that conversation.
Yeah, like it's unfair. Like that's unfair, Rob. And I understand what you're saying, but like Rob, that's unfair to put anybody in the conversation like with KD and Kyrie. No, I'm saying the deal has to make you a better basketball team or just as competitive as them. And John, Halliburton, I'll get right back to you, J-Bob. Halliburton may be better than Fox. Okay, I don't sit there and watch Sacramento Kings games like that. Okay, I am a basketball junkie, but I don't sit there and watch every minute. So I'm not going to debate you in that. What I'm debating you guys in is I'm not. You should be giving me Halliburton and Fox. You fucking suck. You stink. I'm giving you Ben and Tobias. You stink. I don't care about your picks because the second Ben Simmons walks on your court there, as much as we hate him, you walk into 40 wins. Right? You're walking into a way better basketball team than you are right now, and we can all agree on that, even though we despise Ben Simmons. Right? Can we all just agree on that? That Sacramento is better with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris than they are with all the rest of that. Let's be fair here. They're better. They are better. How many wins better? I don't know. But they're not a dumpster fire like they are right now.
And I understand what Robert's saying too. Like, and the reason why I bring up the 3 players, I think there's only 3 players realistically that you can go out and get that would make me, again, I'm not saying this should be everybody, would make me go into a series with the Nets. I'll just say the Nets because that's the team, and say, okay, we're going to beat them in a 7-game series. There's only 3 players, and that's Shea, that's Jaylen Brown, and that's Brandon Ingram. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, Ryan, what about Bradley Beal? I don't think Bradley Beal is getting traded.
Yeah, and if he does, like, okay, yeah, I mean, he's a star player, so it moves the needle. It says it, but again, like. This whole Tobias coming into this conversation is a crock of shit to me. Okay, can we stop putting the bias in it? This is Ben. So the only thing you would do that for Sacramento would be the only reason, right, is you put the bias in there is to sweeten the offer to then get Fox, Halbert, Hield, Barnes. I don't want your picks. I want those 4 for those 2, and you got a deal. Ain't no other way. I'm doing a deal that now you're making out on me. No, I got to be smart business-wise here too, right? And Johnny, or somebody was saying, next year doesn't matter to me, though, in terms of my cap flexibility, because I still have to entice somebody to come here, right? Entice somebody. No. I'm tired of enticing people to want to play here. You understand? I'm trying to go get a guy that's under contract for another 2 or 3 years that is forced to play here. You guys understand what I'm saying? I'm done the entice game. I'm not fucking coming over with Edmonds and a great fucking, a freaking Starbucks coffee and let's sit down and let me entice you to fucking play basketball.
We said that about a guy who had 4 years left on a contract and he's sitting at home.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And I agree with all you guys. Let me make this clear. I agree with Ryan just wanting to get it done with. And I agree with the fan base that just wants to get it done with. And I'm not going to disagree with people saying that, hey, we're better with these guys than we are with these guys. One guy's not playing, so obviously it would make you better. The problem is how much.
So Tom said it perfectly. And Tom and I have talked about this on phone calls, on other shows. When it comes to this situation, I'm sick. I'm tired, but most importantly, I am sick and tired.
That's it. We all are. We all are. And when you are sick and tired, you make irrational decisions.
Yep.
Right? And I don't want to make an irrational decision. Dude, bro, sit there with your Uggs on. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care. Because at some point, I'll get your value. At some point, I'll get it. And if that's me getting all the money back over the years, right? I'll get the value back. Because if you all think that this goes into another year, you're crazy. Everybody's crazy. If it's not at the deadline, it ends as soon as you can after the season. Because if not, the NBA is going to get involved in this. You understand this? This isn't going to just be a Sixers Ben thing, because they're going to take it to the top of the NBA and they're going to make sure somebody pulls the trigger on a deal with them. No way that the NBA will allow this to happen, because you're setting a horrendous precedent on if guys don't want to play somewhere, they can just sit at home for 4 years and collect their money.
So J Love says, I would love y'all to expand on this question. If you can look 6 years into the future, I'll be freaking 31. Jesus Christ. Is Joel still playing? Have you won a title? How do the Sixers look?
Is Joel still playing in 6 years? That would make him what?
30. I think he's 27 right now. He turns 28 in March.
38, 33-ish, right? I mean, I would say he's
that.
still playing at what level? I don't know.
He's you know what he is? He's like Shaq on the Celtics. You know what I mean? Just there.
Better than that, because I think he'll always be athletic enough, right? I would think. But like, is he doing what he's able to do right now? I don't know. I mean, the guy's always been a walking bucket. So like, I feel like his size and stuff, I don't know. J Love, just depends on how the body holds up, right? It's hard to look 6 years in the future with Joel, but to say if he's still playing, yes, I would say he's still playing.
Yeah, I think to Tom's point, I think you and I both agree, Tom. I think the MVP candidate is long gone by then.
Yes, I would assume, right? Have we won a title?
Christ.
Yes.
Yeah, I say yes. I don't know how, but yeah, I'll say somehow.
Joel Embiid will win a title. Listen, all these things we brought in were supposed to really help us get better. We got better last year, right? We made the right moves. Daryl and Doc, I thought, did a tremendous job of getting some veterans in here and doing good deals. I thought they did that this year too with a guy like Andre Drummond, right? I thought they've upgraded this roster where they needed to. Nobody was expecting this. So like when I was joking with you earlier about blushing for Daryl and we were all blush mode, right? And we were blushing for Doc. Nobody expected this. But I can tell you what's going to leak out soon, J Love and the family. Right? That Ben doesn't like Doc. If that hasn't been put out there yet, expect it soon.
Tom, I don't know if I like Doc.
I don't know. Listen, I like Doc, okay? I could just do without you trying to act like you created the game or even putting yourself in a conversation with a guy who is arguably the greatest coach of the last 20 years. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's, first off, that's outlandish, right? That's not feeling the room and understanding it. I crushed him that night for it. because I think it's a joke. Like,
Th-
answer the question, take responsibility, be accountable. He didn't do any of those things.
They're and real quick, J Love, that was a great question, by the way. He says, how do the Sixers look? I would say probably middle of the pack, a couple years away from another retooling, because that's like, you're gonna have aging players probably. Like, I would love it if like the face of the team by then's like Maxey or some guy that we don't even know yet.
You would hope it's some guy you don't know. It's hoping that you have a pick, you nail. It always happens sometimes where, I don't know, you got to pick somewhere and you're picking 14 and you get a star player, right? That falls in your lap somehow.
Or Maxey, who was 22, and he should have been like picked like 7th. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got a guy at 22 a couple years ago who should have, looking back on it, hindsight 2020, should have probably been a top 10 pick in Tyrese Maxey.
And J Love, we can't thank you enough for that. I mean, maybe Maxey can. I'm high on Maxey to put him in star conversations. I don't know yet. I don't know.
So I completely agree with the video you did the other day, Tom, and I actually went back when we once we figured out we were going to talk about Doc and everything. I went back and watched that interview
2 hours later.
Yeah. There's 2 things that stood out to me, right? Number one, you just touched on it. It's, would you ask Greg Popovich that question? Well, to me, yeah, I would. You just blew a 23, 24-point lead at home. I would
ask Phil Jackson that question. I would ask Red Auerbach that question.
I would ask Coach K. I would ask, you know what I'm saying? Like, you blew a friggin' lead. Everything's on the table. Like, yeah, I get it. Charlie Brown played 19 minutes or something disgusting. I understand that same Charlie Brown. We were on the air 2 Mondays ago when he was signed, or 3 Mondays ago. Tom and I looked at each other like, who? Like, what? We're basketball guys. Apparently, he went to St. Joe's. Nobody knew that. You know what I'm saying? So we get it. You're not playing with your full-strength roster. But, A, we are asking Greg Popovich that question. And 2, the thing that stood out to me even more is, don't ask me that. I've earned that. Well, Daryl, I could easily just say, okay, what have you earned? And I'll get to that. Even though, Daryl, am I allowed to ask that question? Like, what have you earned? If I was like a Sixers beat reporter last night, the first question I would have asked him is like, hey, just as a response, a follow-up to your press conference the other day, what have you earned? Because I put this little thing up here. Ralphie put this in the back end for me. I'm just going to throw this on here. That's what you've earned, Daryl. Or I'm sorry, Doc. That's what you've earned, Doc, since you've been here. So,
and I don't all of that is whatever to me. Like, that's regular season blown leads per se. Like, it happens all over the NBA. I get it. It's you thinking that you have won enough for to say, don't ask me that. Like, you got 4 rings, bro, right? Then you can say, I think I've earned that. You got 2 rings. Hey, say you can earn it. You got 1. You got 1.
And that one, Tom?
I'm not taking that 1 away from you. Like,
no,
they're not fair.
No. Like, I'm not going to
act like everywhere you've gone, you've won. You've underachieved. I mean, the Clippers were underachievers in that run too. In the Clippers run with Paul and everything else, right? They underachieved.
That was the biggest underachieving team of those 5-6 years in the NBA.
Yeah, how many 3-1 deficits did they blow? So, I mean, let's talk about postseason. Let's talk about postseason blown leads. Like, does it even trump that graphic? I mean, that graphic is disturbing, right? It's a trend, right? But bigger than that, let's talk about postseason blownness. So don't, Doc, and that's what I was saying too. You're not bigger than the room, right? You're a basketball guy through and through. We get that, but you're asked the question if you can put this game on you. So you know what you do for a team that doesn't have all its players. You know what you fucking do as a leader of men. You know what you do? You put it on your shoulders. You eat it. You eat it tonight. And you say, you know what? And you fucking jerk off the reporter and give them exactly what they want. I wasn't good enough tonight. I didn't get my team ready to play. I should have made proper adjustments. You're all, listen, and you got to understand another thing. These guys are coming out of the moment pissed off too. So their responses are always in the moment, not happy, right? Right after a loss like that. He's not happy. But, dude, own it. Even if it's not your fault they lost that game. Like, you know me with coaches in the NBA, right? You know how I feel about it. Players got to play, okay? But just fucking own it.
Tom, Joel Embiid had 40 points that night, and he took the blame. He said, yeah, I had 40 points, but I had 5 turnovers. He took the freaking blame, and he's carrying the freaking team. He took blame. He took onus on it. Daryl told you in the camera via that Austin Krell or Adam Krell, whoever the reporter was.
By the way,
he said,
Doc, you keep saying,
did I say Daryl again?
You got him living rent free. It's fine.
It's a revolving circle with these people. I swear to God. Doc said, Glenn, I'm just going to call him Glenn because it's not a D. Glenn told us via Austin Krell or Adam Krell, whatever his name was, the reporter. Great question. Well, there's nothing wrong with the question. Glenn Rivers, am above criticism. Because you insinuated that, Pop is above criticism, so am I. No. And to Tom's point, I'm not going to be somebody, even though it could be valid at times, that said, like, okay, well.
Pop's not above criticism either, by the way.
No, nobody is. Belichick is, you can name any great coach ever. If they have a bad game, they have a bad game. If Tom Brady has a bad game, he has a bad game. He's the freaking GOAT. If you have a bad day, you have a bad day. No, everyone's human. But like, I look at it and I say, okay, well, the one championship you actually won, you had like 4 Hall of Famers on it, but I won't do that. I'll just say, okay, we're going to say you had a lot to do with that championship, Daryl. Okay. What year was that? 2008. Got it. Doc/Glenn, the Phillies won the title that year. The Flyers had guys like Simone Gagne, Kimo Timonen, and Antero Ninimaki on their roster that year. And I did this just for fun, Tom. The Sixers starting 5 in 2008 was as follows. The last time Doc Rivers, Glenn, won a championship. Andre Miller, Willie Green, Andre Iguodala, Thaddeus Young, and Samuel effing Dallenberg. Oh, by the way, I was in 7th grade when you won that title. Doc.
Good coaches always are responsibility guys. Like, and I can only go off of coaching myself, right? I can only go off of that, and it's not nowhere near the same situation, right? But like when I pick up a phone and I make a phone call on my ride home from wherever I'm playing at, wherever my guys are playing at that weekend, no matter what age group I've had over the years, do you think the first thing I start blaming is who did what? Or do you start to think I question, maybe I should have did this. Maybe I should have threw this guy. Maybe I should have set up my rotation different. You understand that? What could I have fucking done to put my team in a better position to win? And guess what? I'm not playing. So I get that side of it. This is why I preach I'm not playing. Listen, I can call fastballs all day and you can't get over for a strike, and then we're in trouble. You understand? So it has nothing to do with me, but putting you in position to be successful. Hey, maybe I threw you in a championship game and you just weren't ready for that moment yet, which is totally okay. Right? Or right, you understand what I'm saying? So how could I have set this up different? Oh, maybe I should have did the lineup different. Maybe I should have batted less. Right? It's always what could I have done better? Oh, I was too aggressive today. I ran them too much. I got too many guys thrown out. Right? You understand this? It's what could I have done? And I got no cameras on me. I mean, maybe I do because I'm on my phone, but I'm literally calling somebody to blow myself up. Right? If it's Uncle Sweeps, anybody, I'm calling somebody to tell them that, hey, I should have did this. And I'm not telling you that so that you can tell me, Tom, that's not on you. Because that's usually the response you get. Come on, Tom, you didn't strike out 10 times as a team today. Okay, I didn't, but maybe I could have laid down maybe I could have moved runners better. Maybe I could have played small ball better. What could I have done better today?
You know what that's called?
And if I'm up fucking 10-0, right? To leave you with this, if I'm up 10-0 and I blow a game and I lose 11-10, which is absurd, okay? Which is absurd. We can compare baseball to basketball for a second. Sure. Right, you know what? Say I'm up 5-0 in the bottom, going into the last 2 innings, and I lose 6-5. I better start questioning who I could have put in, what I could have did. Maybe I left the guy in too long. Whatever. I'm going to question everything I fucking did, every decision. So please don't do this at the highest level possible where you're getting paid a lot more money than me to sit in front of that camera and ask a fan base that spends a lot of money. You can't just circle jerk us for a minute. You can't just tell me that it's on you. Like, you don't got to go into detail. You can just say it's on me and walk out of the presser. I would have dealt with that better than that little dog and pony show.
He could have even not answered it. He could have been like, well, it's on everybody, including me. Bye. Like, he could have, quote unquote, thrown his team under the bus and be like, oh, everybody's to blame, including me. He didn't have to say it's 100% me. But for him to scoff at the idea that, oh, maybe I made a mistake in a 24-point blown lead. So sorry to offend Daryl or Doc or Glenn.
I left this lineup in too long, right? Like, there's a million things that are not really your fault, but could be. Like, we're talking about blowing a 5-0 lead in baseball. Like, okay, maybe I should have put a different guy in, right? Hey, maybe I played for a 2-run homer late in the game when I was up 5-0, instead of going about doing some different things, right? Maybe I didn't run guys, right? I wasn't stealing anymore. I should have shut it down because I felt like the game was in the bag, right? Whatever. I'm not saying that I'm gonna freaking steal all day, but the fact of the matter is just be accountable for a bad loss.
Yep. And
there's times where they aren't bad losses, you just lose. And hey, I don't necessarily call and put it on myself for times like that. Like, hey, we just ran into a great team today. But again, I'll always go back to, damn, I should have did this today.
We said this in real
fucking right. On cue. I'm going to get the guy I coach with to tell you. On cue, you can expect a call from me 10 minutes after me getting in my car to tell you everything I did wrong today. Everything. Nobody does that.
Yeah, it's an example of leadership and accountability, two things that I have not seen much of from Doc.
No.
And we said this in real time, right? When this happened last spring/summer. You could argue the best thing that happened to Glenn Rivers this past summer was Ben Simmons, because it took a lot of spotlight off of all the mistakes he made in those playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, again, you're not wrong. He wasn't perfect. We've talked about that he wants to use a bench in the postseason more than maybe most teams do, and I'm okay with that. If you got a bench, if you got the personnel, right? Like, it's all about personnel. Like, so listen, every team's a little different, right? Every place you've been's a little different than the place before, right? So it's like I have two teams. They're different, and I'm not talking about talent-wise. I'm saying they're different. Like, they're different. So the argument with my one team strength is, hey, from the last time I had them both, is, hey, one just a bunch of junk. One's a bunch of junkyard dogs, right? Like, they might not beat you 10-0, but you better watch out because they're going to pick it. They're going to do all the little things right? And then the other team's a little different. Not saying they don't do all the little things right. They maybe have a little bit more power, right? I don't know, but every situation is different. So every way you're going to coach a situation is different. So if you're just going to go, here we go, honey, lay down, baby. I'm going to get right on missionary talk. This is what it is again. It's a fucking joke. So what you did in Boston is going to be different than what you're going to do in Philly. What you did in the Clippers, you got to change. You got to adapt. All these guys are a bunch of losers. It's my system. This is how I've operated for years. I got fucking 1,000 wins. Jerk me off. I would have 1,000 wins too if I've been in the league that long. Sorry, guys. I hate it. I hate it. I can be accountable in freaking AAU baseball, but you guys can't be accountable getting freaking $10 million a year. And I'm not saying like I deserve $10 million a year. I'm just saying if you're a leader of men, you're going to always put yourself first.
I look at it and I see the comments. I hear the comments. I revisit the comments. I see how he's coached ends of games. I see how he was completely asleep at the wheel in the second round of the playoffs and he said it himself, that was like the one time he's actually been accountable so far, that he didn't expect the Hawks to be that much of a threat looking back on it. All things that he said, by the way. So he's admitting that he didn't respect the Atlanta Hawks coming into that series. He completely didn't have a game plan. He was just like, we're going to go out and play all that stuff. Oh, that's great. Oh, we're down. Oh, my God. We have to come back and force a game 7 at home. Oh, my God. We have to actually make adjustments at home. And the last game we won at home was in game friggin' 2. Oh, wait. we're just going to blame it all on Ben Simmons. And I get it. Ben Simmons sucked. There's a lot of things that sucked. That's why you lose to a team that was inferior. You lose to a team that has a losing record right now in the Atlanta Hawks.
In fairness to him, he didn't, though. He didn't, like, go on a Ben tirade or anything like that.
No.
At least not that I remember. So he didn't, like, deflect it to Ben, but you're making the point, like, us as fans, he got away with it. He got away with his mistakes, and we as fans put it all on Ben.
Tom, it bought him, and again, this conversation can go away if what you're saying happens from the beginning. Like, they end up as a top 4 seed. Maybe they get past the second round. They haven't done it so far. I don't know what would make me think they would, but you know what I'm saying? Just I'll project that way. If they, for example, underachieved again this season with Ben Simmons, you don't tell me Doc Rivers is on the hot seat? So because Ben Simmons is probably going to sit the entire year out, it bought him another year of just, hey, it's not Doc's fault. He didn't have the $35 million player here. It bought him a year of mild expectations.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you're 100% right. So you're playing with house money, all right, in those terms this year. Because if you are a top 4 seed, like we've spoke about, me having them 4, you having them 5 or 6, or whatever, right? You're not in a playing game. You're in the playoffs, right? I think even more so if you're like a 4 and you're over expectations without that missing piece, it really buys you time, right? Because now you're like you're fucking overachieving. Like, okay, listen, I love you, Doc. Like I always have. Like I'm not a hater of you by any stretch. So I don't want to make it be like that. But don't put yourself bigger than the game. And that's what that is. Like, listen, even if you think you're in the conversation with Pop, I'm not saying you're not, right? Like in terms of your basketball IQ. Nobody's debating your IQ. We're asking you if you can put some of this game on yourself. And I don't know what reporter asked that question.
Austin Krell.
Austin, I would have got myself thrown out of that room with that response. I would have said, wait. Hold on. Give me 1 second, Doc. I got one more question for you. You know how many rings Greg Popovich has by any chance? What dynasty were you a part of as a coach? And I'll never be allowed back in the room again. I'm not even going to go hard at you. I'm just going to ask you that. We're just going to have this little sit down.
The only.
I don't know how many he won. What do you win? 5, 6, 7? What do you win?
Five.
Whatever.
Or
Whatever.
6. Whatever.
You're 5. You're what? So what are you going to say? You're going to tell me how you had Duncan and Robinson? Okay. And I'm going to tell you had fucking Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, fucking a whole shitstorm in LA too. I'm going to tell you what you had in Boston for 2 years too. So the second year or the first year, one of those years, you underachieved in Boston because you didn't win it every year you were there. You didn't go on a dynasty. You weren't winners 2 out of 3 years, right? So, like, give me some sort of dynasty before we talk like a guy who's had one. And then not only had one, won championships with 3 different teams per se. A team carried with Duncan and Robinson. A team carried with Duncan. A team carried with Kawhi Leonard. So, fucking grow up, Doc.
Tom, it's not like Glenn Rivers is somebody where his storyline of his career is, oh, he can't get it done in the finals or the Western Finals or the Eastern Finals. Correct me if I'm wrong, fam. When's the last time he coached a team that got to the conference championship? Because the Clippers never got to one before last year, ever. So all those years where he was there, he never touched the Western Finals.
Yep.
And you mean to tell me he hasn't been back to a conference title game, let alone because with his micromanagement, he's not winning a damn series.
No.
He hasn't touched a Western or Eastern Conference final since Boston? And he wants to talk about how he's earned something? Please.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm not here to take away your title easy, right? Easy money. Like, I'm not here to take away your title because you had a super team either, right? I'm just going to tell you, slow the fuck down, thinking you're in a conversation with one of the greats of all time. And that's not saying you're not a good basketball mind or not a great basketball mind, right? But and not saying that you were dealt the same cards that a guy like Pop was dealt, right? I'm not telling you yet Kawhi Leonard and Tim Duncan, right, and David Robinson. I'm not telling you that either. What I'm telling you is have a little respect for the fucking game. That's what I'm telling you. RJ, the stream started at 5:00. That's when we start.
And the only other thing that you could say, oh, well,
Is he though? Sorry, Hugh. Is he? Is he?
Funny?
Because I'm asking for a friend because I see the same mistakes.
You know what's funny?
The only thing that got better is Joel Embiid has cleaned up his act.
Yeah,
that's it.
I would say that's more on Joel than coach.
It's a combo. To be fair, I think it's a combo. I think it's accountability. Okay. I think it's a guy who played in the league for a while, has been around the league for a while, comes with respect when he says something to you. For a guy who cares, like Joel, like if Doc and Sam Cassell, like I want to make it clear, this is a good staff. It's a very good staff through all this ranting, right? It's a very good staff. Just don't act like you didn't underachieve last year. Don't act like that you're above that question, okay? And I'm not going to act like you don't get players better here. I'm not going to act like you haven't helped the growth of Tyrese Maxey in his limited time here, right? You and Sammy Cassell. I'm not going to act like you haven't helped with the growth of Joel Embiid turning into a man and a leader. I'm not going to say anything because I'm not behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to say is don't disrespect the game and don't disrespect a simple question of, and I hate reporters' questions, but simple question of, can you put a little bit of this on you?
I was getting an argument with somebody the other day that was saying, oh, well, Ryan, Glenn Rivers, they called him Doc. I'm going to use Glenn. Glenn Rivers and Greg Popovich are the only two active coaches that have eclipsed 1,000 wins. And I could say, okay, great. What has that gotten, Doc? Because Greg has substance. He's taken all of those wins during the regular year, and he's gotten that into championships and Western Conference Finals appearances.
Well, that's what you said best, right? It's the conference finals. It's like, okay, you're not winning chips, but all right, you've been to 8 conference finals, right? Or four NBA finals. Like, dude, I mean, come on. Let's bring calm down.
His entire career is basically second round blown lead exits. That's what he's done. He did it in Los Angeles, and he's doing it here.
Absolutely.
Which now makes me question, why the hell were we happy we got him? You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's the funny thing. Like, we wanted Sammy. Like, Sammy was both of our, like, number one candidate. And we looked at the Glenn thing, and we're like, oh, well, we got Sammy, and we got his boss, you know, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I don't know. You just look at he's been gifted with so many players. He hasn't had to go to a Sacramento or a Memphis or Charlotte. Like, he's gotten to play with Hall of Famers, and then he left and got to play with even more Hall of Famers. And now he comes here and he's maybe playing with one of the best players he's ever coached ever.
No, you're
TTP. I don't know what I want, TTP. I don't know.
Ryan's in a bad spot. All right.
Well, like, because I want to be fair, right? And I want to say, oh, whoa, I don't want to be that guy that says, hey, with an extremely limited roster and everything I said in the first, 35, 40 minutes, I don't want to be that guy that just says, oh, whoa, it's still the coach's fault. No, I'm not going to say fire, Doc. But what I am going to say is,
I don't think you're there.
What I am going to say is he's making himself the storyline. And he's making it really, really hard for me and a lot of us to be patient with this. They signed him to a 5-year deal? And I'm not trying to turn the Sixers into what the Phillies have been. It's just blame the coach, fire the coach. There's a lot more than a coaching change that I think these teams need. What I am saying, TTB, what I am saying is that, and I think this is just a sole message to Glenn, obviously, except for a couple people, I don't think anybody would really argue this who's watched. Let's not act like Glenn has been far from the issue either. Lower on the totem pole, absolutely, but there's a lot of things that he could have done better in the very short amount of time he's been here.
Yeah, I didn't take it as you were running him out of town. Not at all. I'm not running him out of town. But like you said, you're in the headlines for all these reasons, and they're all the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd rather you be in the headlines of being fully accountable for a bad loss and moving on to the next one, which his basketball team did. And they went to San Antonio, and he beat a guy that he says he's better than, and Greg Popovich. But good win nonetheless, and a team that's playing extremely well on the road, and that says something to me. That tells me something. What it tells me, I don't know. But I feel like when you're a good road team, you got a little bulldog in you as a group, right? And I like that. I do. And it was sort of like the Eagles. Like, they played well on the road. They had a little fight in them on the road, right? They didn't figure it out at home till later on, but they felt like during the regular season that they were a team that'll go on the road and they're going to compete. And I look at the Sixers very similar in terms of that. Like, their road record's phenomenal. 500 at home. And I think they can clean that up in the next 2 weeks too, with some of the talent they have. But again, we're as much as I wanted to argue with you earlier on, it's fun to get fired up about some Sixers. So we're not sitting here talking trade machine the whole time, because that's sort of the cloud over our head. But we're not having them far off. I just look at some of those other teams, to circle back to it, is having a drop off because of pieces being missing, and I think it's going to be hard for them to overcome that, right? Like, if you're out without Levine for 2 months, fucking long time. So, and that's if we're staying healthy. So, I mean, all of it's things staying equal. And of course, if one of them teams makes a trade that moves the needle, I mean, then all bets are off. And the same thing goes with the Sixers, right? I mean, if they make the right trade, then all bets are off. If they don't make anything, I still think that they're right there into that top 4 because of the guy everybody's mentioning underneath of us. And that's Joel Embiid. And throughout all this cloud over this season so far and everything that's happened, all right, he deserves a minute to talk about how good of a player he continues to turn himself into, to talk about him limiting his turnovers as a whole. Now, in losses, they seem to show their ugly head, but for the most part, I thought he's done way better in terms of the double team, right? I thought that was an Achilles heel of his, and I think he's slowly getting better at it. Is he where he wants to be? No, he'll tell you that. But he's getting better. He's accountable for it, right? And if you're accountable for the things that you're not good at, you can always get better. Take notes, Ben Simmons, right? If you're always accountable, you can get better. And Joel Embiid continues to get better. And guess what? He looks thinner. He looks in better shape, Ryan. And if I look at those things, I'm not going to bet against him, a pissed off Joel Embiid, or a guy with an agenda for everything that's happened to him this year. To not make a statement in this regular season, to have us sort of where we want to be, and us going into the playoffs at least feeling like, hey, maybe this is the year when we don't expect that we get over this hump. Not cutting nets down. Just kidding.
No. Just
like maybe going to a conference finals when we least expect it.
I'll celebrate like we won the friggin' finals if we get past the second round.
And then Doc can tell us how great he is.
Yeah, and then maybe he might be a little bit above mistakes, and so he blows the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm comfortable in saying this. He's in the best shape he's been in since, I would argue, before he got hurt with the orbital fracture.
I would agree with that, Johnny. Yeah, I see you. He said, I am a nerd. I took February 10th off from work to watch the coverage.
What day of the week is that, Johnny?
Thursday.
And
I know that because that's Cass's birthday.
Oh, he's a trade deadline birthday. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to get him a t-shirt. Trade deadline day. I'm gonna have to get him a t-shirt. Oh my God. It's so funny too, because I look at how, and this is more of a Doc Rivers thing, once again, not a Joel Embiid thing, but like I look at how our offense is structured in like clutch moments of games. And it's just basically, it's reverted back to what it was in the playoffs. It's just like, hey, Joel, I'm going to give you the ball, just do things. Even though now it doesn't even take a Tyrese Maxey or someone to give Joel the ball. It's just Joel starts with the ball. Like he's literally a 7'1" point guard almost. And I hate that because it's just kind of, okay, just watch. But it works because of how great he is. So it's the most ugly game plan in the world, the most basic missionary game plan that's just like, give it to your best player. He's going to have 4 guys on him, but just hopefully he can save us. And he does continuously.
He does, right? Yeah, he does.
And whether that's from the 3-point line, whether it's this little hesitation pull up from the foul line, he does, whether it's the fadeaway, whether it's him getting crazy in the paint, whether it's him trying to end careers when it looks like he's just going to jump into somebody while dunking the ball and take the rim down with him. He is the most versatile point. He's like a point center. Like, what the hell is that? He's like a point center, and it works. He literally is a unicorn, and you see all of what he did last year, and it's like, well, damn, he did a lot of that on one leg. It's like, oh, he's actually in decent shape. I don't even know if he's in great shape right now because Joel keeps saying he's still not happy with it. He still says he's, recovering from COVID. So you're telling me he could actually get in better shape than this? And that he's still recovering from the knee because he said the knee's still not 100%? Good God. It's disgusting.
No, it really is. Like, he's just the guy. And the biggest thing is, like you said, the guy continues to bail us out, too. And he makes up. He's really making up for a lot of the weaknesses on this basketball team.
Do you want to? Because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for this. You want to jump in a little playoffs because I have a couple questions for you and the fan regarding that.
Yes, I want to talk playoffs.
What are you doing? Setting your bets?
No, I got something from freaking PayPal, and it was like, if you want to release your money, like, why do I have to do this all the time? Like, I constantly update it, and then they tells me, like, oh, if you want to release your money, like, we did this before. We did this last month. What are we doing? What are we doing? All right, this is why I don't use you. This is why I don't fucking use you. All right? Not a plug for PayPal. Screw them. Venmo better. Cash App better. They're all better.
Of all, I agree with that, by the way. Of all of the takeaways and storylines one could have after these 4 games, what was your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
Huh. Well, I mean, there's 2, really, right?
Okay.
QBs matter.
Damn it.
Even though, I'm not going to do this today, but even though some people don't think it should be a QB stat, okay. It is when you got eyeballs.
If you weren't going to do it, I was going to do it. If you weren't going to say it, I was, so you might as well.
It's a stat if you have eyeballs. It's not the end all be all, but if you're arguing about who's better than who and their numbers are similar, what do you go to? Fair or not fair? It's the way it is. But yes, I took QB play matters, and then the other big thing is defense. Your front sevens really mattering that we already knew, but just even more in this weekend. I think the 2 weakest front sevens, maybe from this weekend, were in the shootout last night, and they're both got good front sevens, and they might be the weakest because the Niners front seven's loaded.
The Bengals are sneaky.
The Bengals. I don't know about their front seven, right? I mean, Chiefs do have a good front seven, so I'm not taking it any way, and so do the Bills. But the biggest weakness I thought going into that game for the Bills showed out, and that's not having Tre'Davious White this time of year. I think in a game like that, you need him to be able to slow down Tyreek Hill. But that my biggest takeaway were just, hey, defenses. Because I think you saw how important they were in all the football games, and the QB play.
You might be shocked I'm going to say this because this game was kind of buried in the greatness that was first the 3:00 game yesterday. And I don't know about you and everybody at home. I was exhausted after that first game watching it. And then thinking to myself, I was talking to a couple people. I'm like, this game was so good, Rams Bucks, that this game against the Bills Chiefs is probably going to suck because it's supposed to be great. And how do you follow up that first game? And it was everything that first game was times 30. But my biggest takeaway was actually the Bengals, and this is why. And it kind of goes right along with you. It's amazing how fast you can turn things around in the NFL when you have certain people on your roster. And that roster is still not very good, in my opinion, or good enough. Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times. Their offensive line still stinks. Their defense is still very young.
Yeah, I think their defense might get a 40 next week. So, they might be far away there, but the franchise quarterback. What is the thing that Tennessee Titans don't have?
And I'm in a lot of Titans groups, Tom, because we're doing a lot of Titan stuff and, with A2D because they're one of the playoff teams. You know what their main storyline is in all those groups the last 24 hours, Tom?
Ryan Tannehill.
Get Tannehill out.
Yeah, again, not and right. Where does he go? And you will say to me, "Well, Tom, look at San Francisco. Different. It's different. One, you get to play Aaron Rodgers, and they own him. Two, Aaron Rodgers in the playoff chokes all the time. But the big thing is listen, they won a little bit of a fluky way per se. I don't want to call it fluky,
but play the worst special teams maybe ever.
Yeah, and you're going into a game and it's like -2. Then it's snowing in the second half. Like that becomes a coin flip game. Hey, flip them because their defense is really good. And that's the difference when you talk about Titans defense is good. Titans defense isn't as good. Their front seven's not as good as the Niners, right? And then they're playing, not a team. They're playing similar types of high-powered offenses, right? But in the conditions is what makes it different, right? So you can, even though Rodgers claims he likes it in those conditions, like you can slow those conditions down, both ways in terms of playing in -2, right? Like it not only slows down the defense, slows down the pass rush, but so does the offense. And at the end of the day, I didn't think the Niners pass rush really slowed down. I thought they were all over the place. I thought they did a tremendous job. So the thing I can take away is, yeah, you don't need a franchise quarterback, but you better have a damn good head coach. You better have a great running game. You better have a quarterback that can make enough throws. Enough. All right. And you better have a lights out defense. That's the only other way you can win without the star quarterback. So what's easier to find? Fred Warner, Joey Bosa. I'm losing track on their defensive tackle because they traded it.
Well, they have. I don't know if I know they have
Buckner back in the day, but they traded Buckner because of this guy and
Kinlaw. They drafted Kinlaw,
right? So like, what's harder, finding like all those pieces or getting myself a franchise quarterback?
They've got the other one. He was all over Rodgers the other night.
Yeah, he's like 6'8". He's like
He's like Jordan Davis, but not.
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but again, I mean, their front
Armstead.
Yeah, Armstead. Their front four will eat you alive. And then they got arguably the best middle linebacker in the game. Like, arguably. Like, he's at least top 3. So, I mean, you have those pieces. So then you can make up for an average quarterback that just finds ways to win because that's Jimmy G. Like, average is all average, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's Jimmy G. But it makes enough throws, right? Enough. Makes bad ones. But we talked about in the postseason, you just got to be able to throw it enough.
You know what was amazing, too, about the 49ers? And again, like I had them winning the first weekend just because it wasn't even based off of them. It was just I didn't necessarily believe too much in the Cowboys, but they were a pass away from not making the playoff stop. Remember, they had to win that overtime game against the Rams to clinch. It would have been the Saints.
When they were down 17-0 in that football game, too.
Yep.
So an extremely resilient group. Can't say enough good things about that group. They get doored on Sunday, by the way. So, all that being said, doored on Sunday. Doored. You heard it here first. Get your bets in right now. No shot the Niners beat them 3 times. No shot that happens. If you tell me that happens, fine. Anything can happen in the NFL. It's great. And no shot.
We're getting a rematch of what was called one of the best games of this generation, Goff versus Mahomes. Instead, we're getting it with a better quarterback on the other side in Stafford. That's what we're gonna get.
It's gonna be another great weekend, but this was one of the best.
Now, I do want to ask you this too, and my second biggest takeaway, and we've kind of known this for a couple of weeks now, and I'll ask you this before we get into the OT rules because I think that's a perfect way to end. In a little bit, but you talk
Brady and Rodgers too at the end.
Well, no, that's kind of what I'm getting into here, in a way, because you look at Brady, Rodgers, they're out. You alluded to the press conferences, how they kind of went things different. They went differently in their approaches, so they both get eliminated this weekend. We don't know what their future holds. You have Jimmy G. We didn't know what his future really was holding before this game. Now that's a question. And you look, there's a bunch of quarterbacks this year where it's kind of up in the air. So what I want to do especially before, the next couple of weeks when, rumors start coming out, maybe some changes start happening, because any change could happen at any point. Because remember, Alex Smith was traded like the week of the Super Bowl from the Chiefs. So we don't have to wait until the offseason for this. I want to give you a name, Tom, and fam at home, play along with this. And you tell me if they're going to be with their team that they are with right now at the start of next year. Okay? You don't have to tell me where they're going to be. If not, just tell me yes or no. Will they still be with their team? Aaron Rodgers, will he be with the Packers?
No.
Okay. And if you want to tell me where he'll be, by all means. I agree. I do not think he will be back. Tom Brady, will he be back?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yes, I'll say he's back.
I say he's back, and he announces that this coming year is his last. Ryan Tannehill, is he back?
Yes. Because I like they do win football games with them. So, as much as like that game's on him, I think he's back because what's their alternative?
Yep.
Now, I mean, did they have enough to convince Rodgers to come to Tennessee? I don't know. Right? Like, those things I can't answer. But, if I'm at Rodgers
or something.
Yeah, if I'm at Rodgers, I look at the Tennessee Titans and I say, I know it's not a big market, but my goodness. And I don't got to play in -2 anymore. Like, I might have to play in a 45-degree day, which is colder, or 40, but I don't got to fucking play in -2 in the postseason.
This one I'm probably the most excited to hear your answer with. Is Jimmy G still a 49er?
Well, I think that depends on Sunday. That's an unknown.
All right, if they lose.
No, I think he's gone.
If they win,
he's back. It's hard not to bring back a quarterback. You've gone the second
2 Super Bowls in 3 years.
Yeah. It's hard to like say, that guy's not the guy. We're gonna go to Trey. Like I think a part of it depends on how they feel about Trey. They see him at practice all the time. I don't. Right. So I can't speak about his progressions, right, in terms of a quarterback. So that's a John Lynch situation. But I'll tell you this: whatever decision John Lynch makes down there, probably going to be the right one. Because the guy that I argue that's the executive of the year. I mean, the roster he continues to put together down there is outstanding.
Tom, see what Robert said, Tom.
Yeah, great. It's good for Zach. Glad he's back.
Here he is. Thank you, Robert. I look at it like this, Tom. Like if they bring back Jimmy G. Say, for example, they lose this week, which I think they're going to. If they bring him back, that tells me one thing. It should tell us all something. Trey Lance flat out sucks. Because we have to remember, they didn't just pick Trey Lance. They traded how many picks to go up to get Trey Lance? So they used a lot of capital, a lot of supposed assets to help Jimmy G in order to replace Jimmy G. So, somebody compared this to the Alex Smith thing the other day. Alex Smith got the Chiefs to the playoffs a bunch of times, got them 11-5 all those years, and they still moved on for him because they knew they had a Patrick Mahomes in the building. So if they move off of Jimmy G, that tells me that they know, because they have to know that Trey Lance is that guy. But if they win this week, I don't know what the hell you do, because I don't think there's a right answer.
Well, there is. He's back. You know what I mean? Like, there is. He's back for his last year, and then that's it. And then it goes to Trey, right? Or if he struggles, then it goes to Trey. But, again, they know more about Trey than we do at this point on how he's developing and if he's ready to be the guy next year. And, again, I'll defer this to John Lynch. I really am not copping out of this answer. I really believe whatever decision John Lynch makes for that football team is going to be the right one. How can I disagree with that? Over his tenure there on how he's built a roster out. You know what I mean? I would have to assume that he's doing a good job. Okay, Panama Queen, thank you. I'm a Niners fan. Jimmy G is going after this year. We're not paying him $27 million. Probably not. But how much of a dead cap is it? I don't know, right? So, I need to know his dead cap number to tell you if if it's something that if he's guaranteed 15 of that, say, right, and dead cap money, he's back. He's back. Now they might try to trade him, but even trading him, we learned this the hard way. You still got to eat it. Still got to eat it. Still got to chew it up. Still got to chew. Still got to finish your dinner, eat your greens, right? Because that's what it is.
And Panama Queen, my other question to you is, what if he makes another Super Bowl? I'm not a Jimmy G guy at all.
No, what if they win it? Because I mean, they could. I mean, they have the front to win it. That's the end of the conversation there. With when it comes to the Niners, they have the front four to create the havoc you need to create to win. Right? Same as this weekend. Like I think it is extremely hard to beat a good team 3 times. Right? But if there's a defense to go do it, it's the Niners. Because if they pressure Stafford, then we're talking a whole different conversation. And if they pack real quick, if they pressure Mahomes or they pressure Burrow like that, good luck. Good luck. I don't think they win Sunday. I'm just saying they have the makeup to go do it. Now, if they win a fucking Super Bowl, you're telling me they're not paying them $27 million? Maybe not. Maybe you're right.
Well, and I actually
going Bosa. Very fair, Panama Queen. You're going to value them, then you got to pay your young quarterback you drafted in the top 5. So I mean, you got money to spend.
His dead cap hit in 2022, Tom. $1.4 million.
Oh, gone. I don't know the dead cap. You're just telling me you owe him $27 million. So with a $1.5 million dead cap, I don't know how that's even possible.
That's a great contract. That's just.
I mean, it's John Lynch being John Lynch. So yes, unless they win a Super Bowl, Jimmy G is gone. Like even if they go and lose, then I would venture to say he's gone still. Damn! Wow, what a deal! Wow. But if he wins, Panama Queen, you can't not bring him back, right? Like,
false thing. It becomes a false thing.
Yeah, your fucking hands are tied. The whole city's gonna love him. I mean, come on, because all the guy does is essentially win, then, right? And then his winning matters, even if the numbers don't, because now the body of work is saying you've gone to 2 Super Bowls, you've won 1. Like, hey, Tom Brady's replacement that never happened. Hey. And the other thing is, somebody said Rodgers to the Niners, right? He would be that kind of pussy. Aaron Rodgers would be that kind of bitch, right? Oh, I'm gonna go to a team that whoops my ass all the time. He would be. I'm very sour on Aaron Rodgers. Very sour. Not on his talent, just sour. We'll get into it, but just very sour. Sour taste.
I'll tell you what, though.
I don't want to pass back, she said. Yeah, I don't blame you.
No, I hear you. And you know what's funny? Even if he wins the Super Bowl, Jimmy G, which is a Panama Queen, like, for your sake.
Trade him because his value's high, right?
Well, I'm going to trade machine you because if you've got a quarterback who's making $24 million, who just went to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and who's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah, who's desperate for it, though?
Chris Ballard is salivating in the office.
Yeah, but who? Okay, but then it becomes like who has enough cap to bring in $27 million, and who is that desperate for that?
I'll tell you who.
Because he's got to throw the ball well in the Super Bowl. Like, he can't just win it. Like, he's got to at least have a pulse. I agree with Rob that I think Trey Lance is their starter next year, especially because of the dead cap being on 1.5, and they drafted the guy for that reason. And he obviously makes their offense so more explosive because of his abilities. That's a no-brainer.
Tom, ask that question you just asked again about the cap. What did you ask about?
It's us. And if we trade for Jimmy G,
I was just gonna say, here we go. It comes full circle, Tom. Remember I said it to you? Remember I said Jimmy G, how he's watching? This is it. This is it. It comes full circle. Don't tell me he's not trading that. He's doing it. Because it's cheap, it's for 1 year, and it's not as much as Russ.
Well, $27 million.
Well, I mean, Russ is going to he's going to get extended. He's going to be getting like 38.
Right, give Russ 38, then give Jimmy G 27.
I'm not saying I want Jimmy. I'm just saying, you watch, it's going to be hell on earth here. It's going to get worse.
I mean, shit, if Jimmy wins, I mean, then I'm like, then maybe I'm having a conversation.
Howie might pick up the phone like during the game. He might make a trade during halftime. Like that, I'm telling you, like this is how it's going to go. They're going to sneak it. I'm just telling you, I might pick the 49ers this week because this is how it's going to go. This is going to somehow make our lives even more of a living hell.
Don't even do it to yourself. They're not beating them. They're just. I don't know how they beat them. I 3 times. I
3 times. Yeah.
Like if they split during the regular season, I'm probably 9-0 this weekend, right? Like I'm probably like, oh, they're going to upset City. I don't see it, especially because of this. Right? His limitations. Like Jimmy G's limitations, that one bad throw a game.
Oh no, he's made horrible decisions. There was like 4 passes in the game on Saturday that should have been picked.
What do you mean, Jesse? Stop it, Tom. Niners will win despite Jimmy G. I said that. I've literally jerked off their entire defense. Like everything I could literally touch. I touched. Like don't tell you're saying what they're winning this weekend, Jesse? Okay.
Mr. Wing, I promise you there's a team that trades for Jimmy G. I promise you. I promise you. Were you saying nobody is interested for Jimmy G? I don't think he's very good.
Well, imagine, know who you're talking to. Know the room, right? Like I said, it's the doc. Like, know the room. I mean, it's Jalen Hurts' cousin chiming in. I mean,
is that Mr. Wing? Sorry.
We know Mr. Wing. I know where he stands.
Oh, he got mad because I brought in because it hurts. I see. Oh, yeah, Panama Queen's correct. And the injuries. He's got torn everything.
No, we addressed it. Oh, I didn't. Sorry, 40 boy. Yeah, I mean, it would be worse. It would be worse than KD to Golden State.
I knew bringing up his name would go crazy. A couple more. Will Carr be a Raider?
Yes.
I agree. 2 more.
I just don't know what their backup plan would be if they traded him.
His name could be coming up in a minute. Russell Wilson, will he be a Seahawk?
No.
And finally, will Carson Wentz be a Colt?
Yes.
I was going to say, you watch the Raiders' backup plan could be Wentz.
I mean, maybe. Like the only way Carson isn't a Colt is if it's is maybe you get a Rodgers to go to Indy, and nobody's like talked about.
Maybe. All I'm saying is
Devontae in Indy. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say they're arguably the best team in the AFC.
Well, maybe in the game too. Maybe in the entire NFL. I think this is going to be a year that is just an absolute mess with movement with quarterbacks. Because like we didn't even talk about teams like the Panthers that are desperate, the Saints. There's a bunch of teams, the Giants. We can go on a list of all the teams there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking. So, but I know you wanted to talk about the OT thing, right?
Yeah, I just think people are being babies.
I think,
I just don't understand it.
Washington's another one, Molly Mall. I didn't even think of them.
Yeah, Molly. Thanks for a super chat, brother. I mean, Jimmy G or Carr to Washington, maybe, but again, it takes 2 to tango. Now, Jimmy G is more realistic to go somewhere than I think Carr is because what's their backup plan?
Yeah, it would have to be a draft kid, and it's like, really, do you want to open your arms to a kid in this year's draft? I don't know. I completely agree with you, Tom. Like, I don't listen. The people that are saying, "Hey, we really wish that Josh Allen got a chance to respond to that touchdown." Yeah, it sucks that the biggest outcome of that game is reliant on a coin toss. But then I remember, is that really the biggest factor of the game? And to your point, Tom, I think the biggest factor of the game is that the defense couldn't stop anybody with 13 seconds left. I get it. He had timeouts. I get it. You have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mahomes. Completely understand that. I know you don't have Tre'Davious White, on your side of the field. But you just can't do that. You can't. And to me, people that are like taking shots at the Chiefs this morning, The Chiefs, when Patrick Mahomes was sitting on the sidelines in his rookie season when he lost to Brady and the Patriots, they're the same team that requested the overtime rules to be changed. So anyone taking shots at the Chiefs saying, oh, well, they're just happy because they didn't give a chance, to Josh Allen. If it was the Chiefs' way of thinking, the OT would have been different by now. So I know it's a shame that Josh Allen didn't get a chance to respond. I understand that, but I also am not completely for just giving the college rules to the NFL because I know I'm in the minority here, Tom, but I'm not so sure I love the college rules because I look at that and I think that's really gimmicky. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like if you want to have some kind of version of it to where, you have 2 possessions and then maybe if they keep responding, if you go touchdown, 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 maybe on the team's 3rd possession in overtime, then you go to a gimmick like college. But I feel there's enough gimmicks in sports, right? We see baseball when they're actually playing. They do all these gimmicks, and a lot of it I don't like. Everyone just saying, "Oh, we'll just give it the college, thinking, and then it's over." I don't know if I love that.
I don't hate it, but I don't know. I understand people want them to get the ball back and it's not fair. Like you lost the game on a coin flip and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, you gave up a field goal with 13 seconds left. So with that being said, I don't want to hear about the OT rules. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care to have timeouts. I don't care about none of that. I care that you literally let a team go get a 49-yard field goal on you with 13 seconds left on the clock. You didn't squib it. You didn't do anything to try to take a second or 2 off of the clock. You did nothing. Now listen, you can squib it and they can fall on it and get good field position. Still gonna be a second or 2 off the clock there. Still gonna put yourself in a better situation. And then you want to bring 4, right? You don't want to feel the room out and understand that, hey, maybe more guys in coverage is better, right? So I can't let him get rid of the ball fast. Right? I'm not telling you that's bump and run time. I'm telling you that that's time for you to not play 20 yards back. Because what you allowed to happen was the first play, which is the most important of that, right? So, right, that first play, the Kelsey, I believe, or was it the Hill, on that 13 with 13 seconds left?
I think it was Hill. It was Hill then Kelsey. That's
the difference maker right there. Yep. So you got to take him away from that conversation somehow, some way. You got to blanket him. And I'm talking about this from a guy who was a defensive coordinator in Sean McDermott, right? Leslie Frazier, who actually has head coaching interviews, which is a disgrace after what I just watched.
How does he, but not D'Amico Ryans? It's crazy.
Yeah, and whatever. I'm not taking away what he did this year. I'm just saying, in the biggest moment of your season, you prevented your team from winning. And you really, listen, you got to respect Tyreek Hill's speed, but that's where you blanket. And then that's where you pray, right? Because even if Mahomes has to roll out of that pocket, changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Changes everything. Because say he completes it. Say he completes a pass, and now there's only 5 seconds left on the clock, right? And he completes a 20-yarder. They're still not in field goal range. So it changes everything. That first play dictates exactly how that's going to go. As soon as they completed that pass, we all knew what was happening. Yep, they're going to get field goal range. And then the second play, you do the same thing. You were literally allowed them for a field goal to stop them from the touchdown, which ended up happening in OT anyway. I don't know. That's why for me today, I can't scream from the mountains that I hate the OT rules. Do I love them? No. But I don't want to hear that's the reason the Bills lost a football game. If you give up that with 13 seconds left, you don't deserve to go to an AFC title game. With all due respect, and I think Josh Allen is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I love his ability. Right, answered every question mark that was out there about him on yesterday. Every question mark. Okay. Bigger question mark is the defensive coaching staff, because there's a lot of question marks with 13 seconds left that they did, and that's why they didn't advance. It had nothing to do with the OT rules.
Mm-hmm. This is a good question. He says, rank the coaches remaining in the playoffs. This will be interesting for you.
Well, I mean, Andy's won.
Mhm.
I mean, McVay and Shanahan are close.
I thought you were going to put Shanahan fourth behind Taylor.
No, I think he's better than Taylor, but they both done a phenomenal job this year.
Yeah. No, I thought you were going to say that just because of your hatred for Shanahan.
His body of work's better, obviously. He's got a roster longer. I'll give him that nod over Taylor. I'll put Taylor fourth just to be fair. But I think McVay's 2 right now. We'll see this weekend. I mean, right now he's 2. I can change real quick.
I might give it to Shanahan because he's on the brink of having Jimmy G as a quarterback in the Super Bowl 2 out of 3
that
years.
guy also took Jared Goff to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they lost, but
scored 3 points. Yeah.
How'd the Niners do when they went?
They had some points. They blew it, but they had
I don't
some
remember.
points.
I don't know.
I don't know what the final score was.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm just
At
like,
least they had a lead. they choked it again, which is typical Shanahan. I would probably put McVay 2.
They're close. They really are. I mean, either way, I'm okay with. I think both have showed they can do stuff with less. So I'm sure as I'm not going to take away what McVay's done with more now. When he showed with less, he can get to that. He can get on the top of that mountain.
I'll ask you this too. So of the 4 games, did the Bengals win it or did the Titans lose?
Well, I mean, I don't like taking wins away from teams. I mean, you're throwing picks and turning the football over. You're losing the game for yourself. But no, I mean, listen, the Bengals won. They overcame.
Okay,
that's the difference. They overcame. I don't like giving cop outs like that. It's unfair almost. Just like I won't say the Bills like the Bills give up the game. Yeah, but the Chiefs made big plays with 13 seconds left to give them a shot, right? So it's like, as much as I don't want to take I want to put a lot of heat on the Bills for coughing up a football game. I also got to give credit to the other side, right? Because the other side did almost the improbable.
I hear what you're saying, but I definitely think the Packers lost it as opposed to the 49ers won it.
Yeah, I mean, they coughed up a football game. So, like, that's different. Like, there's, that's different than the other 2.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking about a block field goal and you're talking about a block punt for a touchdown. Like, that's giving a game away. Like, a quarterback turning the football over, that happens all over the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, outside of the Bills, Chiefs, where they were just fucking lighting the world on fire, the rest of the league turns the football over. There's always some turnovers. I think there were 6 turnovers in the Rams-Bucks game. 2 pretty good quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, 2 pretty good guys. I think there was 6. There was something like that. There was a lot, I feel like. Just there was fumbles, right? There was other things, but there was a lot of turnovers in that game. So, you can say Titans choke, but are the Titans that much better than the Bengals to like choke? Like, granted, they're the 1 seed, I get it, but are that much better? Like, the Packers choked. I can't say the Titans choked. Like, going into that game, you got to expect a dogfight there. Like, I thought the Bengals were going to have a letdown because they won their first playoff game in a long time, but it just shows you that they're not there. Yeah, they ain't just there to win one. They came for more. But
the biggest difference between the Titans and the Packers is that you can make the argument that the Titans lost because they had the more inconsistent quarterback. They lost to a better quarterback. You can't make that argument for the other side.
No,
that's the biggest difference.
I mean, and their quarterback, and he didn't play good enough. To be fair. I mean, he guy gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so. But I mean, he wasn't great.
Nope. Well, he pulled a Jalen Hurts, Mr. Rodgers. He pulled a Jalen Hurts, and I think the final throw he had. He throws it deep to, I think it was Devontae, and Alan Lazard just standing there.
Wide open across the middle.
He pulled a Hurts.
Well, the pressure. Not like the front 4 pressure, just the pressure of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling like you need it all.
Well, and you had to force feed it to your most dependable guy.
Yeah, well, I think his pressure says everything about the guy. I'm not taking away his greatness. I'm not taking away his ability to spin the football. I'm saying maybe worry about football this year. I'm not getting this into a political debate, but shut the fuck up, bro. Nobody cares. You made this season to everything else but that. Everything else but that. You want to go on McAfee and you want to talk about everything else. Look at me, I'm Aaron Rodgers. That's why your family don't like you. All right? Look at me, I'm Aaron Rodgers. Are you? Because you just coughed up another football game in your own building. Another playoff game in your own building. So you want to talk about like Doc Rivers, like winning one, right? That's all Rodgers has, right? And a lot of underachieving. So to me, it's like, dude, calm down, because regular season success is great. But if you don't get to the pinnacle again, especially when you're favored to get there.
Yeah, I don't know how Packers fans really sleep at night. I mean, you've got two of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation of the last 20-some years, and you only get 2 Super Bowls out of it.
Yeah, and Steve, I understand what it became, right? But he made it that way tenfold, right? Like he wanted to let everybody know every chance he got, he wanted to speak about it. I'm just saying I think he's a trashy guy. It's nothing to do with that. I don't care about your status, your fucking vaccination status. You understand? I care about how you ended the presser, like a loser, like a cop-out little bitch. That's how you ended that presser. Look how Brady's presser was. Look at Rodgers' presser.
Tom, to be honest with you, and like Steve P, this is where I disagree with you. When Tom was talking about making everything but football, my mind didn't go to the vax stand because we've said this before. I couldn't care less about any of that. It's whatever. I thought Tom was alluding to the fact that he was making all of these storylines with his rivalry with the organization. Like I thought he was going towards that. Like how he made it a me versus the world since draft night. That's what I think Tom was alluding to. Maybe he was alluding to a mixture of the two, but
I'm alluding to everything. I'm alluding like I don't care about the vaccination status. I'm alluding to you just like making this whole season about you. Yeah. Like it's not about your team. Like even your presser dictated that to me. You know, you didn't talk about how good of a group you had and all that stuff. You made it about yourself again, right? In a way. Like, granted, you're asked the question about you coming back, right? Just the way he answered, I didn't like. It's like, well, I'm bigger than the organization, you know, in a way. Like, I don't know.
Did you not?
It rubs me the wrong way.
Did you not like the fact that he said he's not willing to go through a rebuild? Did that bother you?
No, because I don't expect you at that point in your career to want to go through a rebuild. But
okay,
like, how about we? I don't know, dude. It's just the way he went about it. Like, just say I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for this conversation yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to. To be honest, I didn't go. I only saw like 30 seconds of it.
Just listen to Brady have his, and listen to Rodgers have his.
Oh
yeah, you're going to notice a way different style in Rodgers is how it was like. I don't know. If I'm a Packers fan, I'm like, fuck you, bro.
I also not to excuse Rodgers because I would have to listen to the post game press conference, but I think it also is an example of one guy in Brady that all he really cares about is his brand, and Rodgers couldn't care less. You know what I'm saying? To where Rodgers is being just his authentic, I couldn't give an F himself. And Brady's being everybody did a great job. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Politically correct.
Leader and just a great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That to me doesn't have that might not have that leadership.
No question. Brady's by far more of a leader than
because you're the face of your organization at that position, mm-hmm. right? Like and we talk about wins and losses, and we talk about but you're the face of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
I just think I know you're not there yet. Like, oh, I didn't expect to lose this game. Like, of course you didn't, right? But then don't I have no problem with you saying you want to sit down with the organization. We'll take it from there, right? I have no problem with you saying that. It's the way he sort of went about it after it. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like and it's been the whole year, right? It was the off season. Like it's just if you want to win the ultimate goal, you have to be selfless. You just have to be. Like you can't be a selfish individual and expect to cut nets down. It just doesn't work like that. Because you need 52 other guys to have your back too.
I do agree with Jimmy. I did hear this one part of it. How he mentioned a couple of times that he was expecting to be here. next week and all. I do think, even though he shouldn't have because he's 0-4 against San Francisco, I can see a level if he kind of looked past this game. And listen, the entire world did. I mean, we were sitting here last Monday and Wednesday saying, "Oh, Jimmy G's got 2 torn ligaments in the hand." Green Bay's now one of the healthier teams. They're getting guys back. They're at home. It's going to be -7 degrees. So I hear you. But it's the difference between the fans and us sitting at home who just talk about this stuff looking past the 49ers and the team and a quarterback looking past the 49ers.
Well, we didn't look past them in reality because we thought exactly what they did. We thought they were going to do, which is not score points offensively. So
fair.
reality, they got a couple extra things that go their way. But I just think I'm not falling a block field goal on them and a block punt on Rodgers. But, I just think when you're not fully invested per se, it can be like that with your whole football team. And I have no problem with him saying he expected to be in an NFC title game. All those guys go in to expect to win. Like, I don't expect you to have doubt of losing. So I have no problem with that. It's just the way. I don't know. I'm a Rodgers guy, but the way he's made this year about Aaron, right? The guy doesn't do interviews with nobody. And now he's on with McAfee every week. He's got his own little spot. Shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. All right? Win a title again, and then you can go do your little thing. Is Brady doing once a week shit? Not saying he won this year, but is he doing once a week shit?
Other than the radio stuff that he would do in New England and Tampa, no, he's not. He's not going on like an exclusive thing like McAfee.
Yeah, he's not doing something different than what he's done, right? Like, it's like, hey, I got a family to worry about, and I got a team that like I want the buy-in to winning, which is all that matters, right? And the other guys, winning is not all that matters. Personal accolades, other things. That doesn't mean he's a bad teammate. I'm not saying that, right? I'm just saying this year he rubbed me as a bad teammate. Because there's plenty of times for him to squash it, and he refused to.
What has it been, 12 years, Tom, since he's won a Super Bowl?
Yeah, something like that.
So all you're saying is, listen, he's going to be MVP twice in a row, and he's not going to have anything to show for it.
Yeah, the MVP.
The microscope deserves to be on you when you do everything in the regular year, a la certain coaches we talked about earlier, and then there's no substance when it matters the most.
Yep, and you scored 10 points.
Yeah, that's it. That's inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, so you made it all about yourself, and in the biggest game of the year, you didn't have your best game. I'm not saying he played bad. He just didn't have his best game.
No, he lost. He lost to Jimmy Garoppolo at home with 2 torn ligaments.
Yeah,
people would say that's surface value, but that's just the way it is. You cannot do that.
So I know we were, we talked. We had our own real production meeting today. Jumping back and forth on, which way we were going to go and which way we were going to lead, and try to sit out the Eagles, right? That was his thing. Like, what, we don't want to beat this dead horse, because we sort of did it Monday, right? Mm-hmm. And like our conversation was going to sort of be like, does this weekend show they're further away than we thought? No, 31-0 after 3 quarters showed me they're further away than I thought, right? So that we all thought like, maybe not as close as we thought. This weekend just puts the nail in the coffin of that, because of the quarterback play. And I know the Sports Hounds are coming live to you at 7:30, so in about 14 minutes. And their poll question for tonight is the Eagles should go all in for Russell Wilson. Do you agree or disagree with that? And you can let us know right now, and you can let the boys know at 7:30. And you know what?
Nope, disagree.
There's a caveat I have too if I'm going to agree with this.
Okay.
And I want you guys to hear the caveat. The caveat is you need to understand now, as a fan base, that you better win in 2 or 3 years. So if you have a plan as an organization that you can pull that off, and you can bring in free agents, and you can entice people to come here to play with a guy like Russ, then sure, go all in. Sure. But you better have that plan set up. You can't make that deal unless you have other big things planned. Right? And what does all in mean? Like, I'm not giving a team with a 34-year-old quarterback, I'm not giving them 3 first-round picks. If you want to talk about a first round this year and a first round next year, sure. And I go into this year with 2 firsts and a second where I can get my football team better, absolutely, then I make that deal, right? Because I I'm not giving up all my value. Like if I lose a first next year, it's okay because I have 2 this year, right? You know what I mean? And if you really want one next year, then fine, you trade one out. You know, it makes sense, right? So you're still going into this year with the same you would any other year in reality. So are you set up to be able to pull it off? Sure. But then you better hit that pick, right? You better hit your second round pick, and then you better be able to bring in free agents because that's the only way it works. Russell Wilson makes us better. Sure. But do you think we beat Tampa with them? As constructed? I don't think so. Are we in a better football game? Maybe we do beat them. I don't know. I know the quarterback means a ton. So from what I've watched this weekend, I'm more in to have that conversation. But my caveat is it has to be the right. Everything has to be perfect for me to make that move. Like perfecto. You got to give me I don't care about bringing in another top-notch wide receiver. I care about bringing in who's on the defense side of football that I can bring in to make my defense better. Like it's still the same conversation that I had with Jalen Hurts that I would have with any other guy who comes in here. I got to make this roster better too. The quarterback's going to help me big time, but I also got to put things around him or it's a waste.
The way I look at it, the way I personally define like all in, for example, is to your point, Tom, you're trading at least 3 first rounders, maybe plus, and you're extending him.
I got no problem with the extension, right?
No, because that's kind of default. You're going to have if you're trading for him, you're extending him. So that's kind of
it goes hand in hand, right? But the 3 first, I'm telling you guys, you don't need to though. That's the problem. Everybody thinks because you have it that you have to give it up. The market is not that. I mean, fucking the best wide receiver in football went for a second and a running back who stinks. So I don't want to hear that you need to give that up. You have the piece to give up sitting right here, and that is Jalen Hurts. So you don't need to. You're not keeping Jalen Hurts while you trade for Russell Wilson. Nope. Are we okay here? Jalen Hurts is going in that deal to Seattle. If I'm in Seattle, I want Jalen Hurts. You understand? I want that. And I want the picks. I want both.
Would you give up all 3 firsts, Hurts and Sanders for Wilson and Metcalf?
I don't need to, Bill.
No, that's too much.
Not cop out of the question. I don't need to. Like literally a first, a third, and Hurts gets that deal done because he's going to go out of there anyway. That's what you people got to understand. He's not going to stay there. He's not going to re-up there.
Yeah,
they're not going to re-up him.
The only way he goes for way more than that is if a Giants team overpays just because they feel like they have to.
And
like they don't want it. They don't want
though. Like that's the conversation. Are the Giants giving you a quarterback that's essentially ready to start for you? Good, bad, or indifferent, but a starting quarterback that was in the playoffs this past year. That's your ace in the hole that ain't nobody has.
No, but they could. I'm not saying you don't see this because we talked about this last week. They're giving you what 5 and 7. They're giving you something where you can easily get that guy.
I love Matt Corral. Then you better, you know what I mean?
Oh, that comes with it. Yeah.
But you also don't have to pay Jalen Hurts as much as those picks. Like, okay, I can get 15 this year and your first next year, and Hurts, I'm doing that deal.
Fair. Yeah, because then you're in the market. Then you're in the market to go up and move for somebody next year if you need to.
But like. Yeah, and like the Rams got Jalen Ramsey for a bag of chips, essentially. What was it, a first? And like
something disgusting. I'm still sick to my stomach over it.
Yeah, when we were all yelling for him.
I remember exactly where I was. We were in the old studio. I was standing there.
You don't have to. You don't have to give up 3 first-round picks. That's all my point is. You don't have to. You can get it done with less. And I'm not saying you're gonna you're fleecing them. No. But he's also on the last year of his deal. So like they're going to go in a lame duck, right? As an organization, they would rather get back what they can.
And he's coming off of arguably his worst year as a pro.
Yeah, and they didn't go to the play. Right, I know he was out, but like they didn't go to the playoffs. I granted their division's tough. I get all that, but you're also trading him a quarterback that just went there.
Oh yeah, and it's not even about their division. They wouldn't have gone to the playoffs in any division. They were garbage.
You think they turned that down? You think they turned down 15? Say a second
this year,
or next second and a third and Hurts.
I do think they turn that down.
Okay.
I think they want if they're going to say, hey, you give us 15, you give us a second this year, you give us a second next year, and like 2 young players, like Dillard and Hurts.
Okay, I think that's too much.
Okay.
So
then the answer's somewhere in the middle then.
Yeah. Like I think like a first, a second, Dillard and Hurts gets it done. I think he gets it done.
I think both picks have to be this year.
Okay. I mean, for me, I'm still walking away with 2 firsts, so I feel good. And I got my first next year, so I don't got a problem with giving up the second.
And Howie could easily turn that one of those firsts this year into 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or later first and a second.
Or a second and a third. Like
he could do that in 5 seconds.
And not that you would want to, because then we'd be in the position like, hey, we need as much high level talent as possible, but you're not wrong there.
I do that in 5 seconds, Nate Brand.
Well, then I'm taking Hurts out of it. Like they're not getting everything. Like Josh Sweat still can have a role here.
Okay, sub out Josh Sweat for the second. So instead of giving them that second, you're giving them Josh Sweat.
Nah, I'll keep Josh because that second's so unknown to me. At least like I got a guy who has a little bit of a pulse getting after the quarterback. I'm not going to crown him.
It could be another Whiteside. That's true.
Yeah, like I don't know what that pick is. So I think a first, 2 twos, or no, a first, a second, Hurts and Dillard probably get it done.
Yeah, something around that. Like maybe a throw-in pick or something, like a fourth, conditional fifth, something like that, just to make the nerds happy.
Like that's what you can do. Like your first and second this year, a third next year, Hurts and Dillard.
Oh, I'll do that. Because I'm still sitting here with 2 picks. And
they'll do it too, though. That's the problem. They'll do it because they're getting a starting quarterback back. That's what people are missing out on. Like, okay, if they love Matt Corral, then they would go with the Giants, right? If they love like something else, right, then the Giants are more on their radar, right? But if they're looking at it like, hey, Jalen Hurts might be just the same as these guys are, I'd rather have him. It depends what they want. You know what I mean?
Now, I know they're desperate for a defensive difference maker, a young defensive difference maker, which is why I brought up the Panthers last week, because the Panthers have like 37 cornerbacks. Like you know what I'm saying? Like a J.C. Horn or a C.J. Henderson, or they
can draft that now because they're not giving them a quarterback back. We are.
Yeah.
So like that's the difference. So like, okay, you're looking for that, but we're giving you a quarterback. They aren't. So you might get a defensive player that's ready to play. Fine, and that works for you. But 15, you can get that defensive player too.
Yeah, that could be Booth. That could be N'Kobe. That could be Stingley. It could be 100 guys.
It could be a lot of things, And maybe you need more picks. Like maybe it's a first, a second, a third, a fifth. I don't know. But I think a starting left tackle, a guy who probably can be your starting left tackle and still young, and a guy who just started at quarterback. I think it's close.
Would you do 16 next year's first, Hurts, and next year's fourth? So all the difference is you're keeping a second this year, you're giving the middle pick this year, and you're throwing in a first instead of Dillard. So you're actually keeping more picks this year.
Yeah, I just hate the other first when I'm giving you a quarterback too.
Because now you're tied to it for 2 years. I hear you.
But again, I don't know if I turn that down. I think I got to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think Jalen Hurts is the biggest ace up your sleeve that we have here. When you talk about like, wanting a quarterback, like most teams are going to want like, wow, you can give me one back. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm rebuilding, but you can give me one back. So at least I can like sell tickets. And I think that's the difference maker when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks on what other teams have to give and what we have to give. We have the draft capital, but we have a quarterback that I think they would be intrigued by.
Mm-hmm.
Has issues, sure, but intrigued by.
Oh yeah, this all becomes very easy if Pete Carroll, who I don't even know if he'll be here at the end of the year, but if I forget the name of their GM, if they are big Jalen Hurts fans in Seattle, this becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. And obviously Kenneth is right here too, and we'll leave you on this one. You know, the wife has a huge part in this.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of where it lies. But I mean,
and I think real quick, Ty, I think that's the ending thing too, is that to answer the poll question that Brinks and Brad will be talking about, if Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie get any sign that Wilson is willing to come here, it's not about whether I would do it or Tom will do it as far as going all in. Howie Roseman and the Eagles will be willing to do whatever it takes if Russell Wilson shows that he wants to come here.
Absolutely. Listen, you guys are the best out there. We thank you all for tuning in. It was good to get some good Sixers talk early on. Try to get away from the cloud that is over top of them. Try to talk some projections. And we'll see how it goes. Right? We're coming right up on it, and we'll see if the guy's here. We'll see if he's not. And this is a big week for this basketball team. Sorry.
Real quick, one final question. This time next Monday, is Jonathan Gannon still the defensive coordinator of the Eagles?
Yes.
I'll cross my fingers and I'll say no.
Pray to somebody.
Yes.
Pray to somebody. If you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We appreciate you all. Stay tuned for the boys on the Sports Hounds coming up in 1 minute. Not followed by the Flight Zone tonight. They will be back tomorrow night. That's Ryan Brotto. I'm Tom Arnone. This has been Monday Morning Quarterback. And every Monday, we are brought to you by the best fantasy app in the world, and that's Fan Up. And of course, this isn't going to click. That's what we're doing. End of the show. There we go. Fan Up is the best way to enjoy fantasy sports, daily NFL contests, and more. Win great prizes. Sign up today. Use promo code A2D for 5,000 bonus points, $50 value. Fan Up right on the Apple Store. Hey, if you're a first-time fantasy junkie, jump in. If you've been doing it for a long time, jump in. Trust me. It's fucking awesome. You're going to love it. And I play it every day. Every day. There's NBA contests, too. There's the Bachelor, Bachelorette. It's interactive. Go jump on, challenge us. We love you all. 10-9-8. Hey, a little 4-1 home stretch. Let's go. Trade Ben Simmons.